Here we go again. Another delayed sort of video. So I was just sorting out, just putting a comment on the other one. You guys can come across from the PUFA one, so that's out of the way. Hope you enjoyed that. I was quite animated. I enjoyed myself. I must have got a second wind after my exercise. That's probably what it was. Yes, you friggin' Euro trash. These Westies are so bad. I do apologise to all my friends in Europe. God almighty. Damn friggin' troll. Yes, that was my other one on the short delay about the, basically, my comment about him. And about the PUFA thing that I just ran just a moment ago. G'day, Mandy. Good to see you. Good morning to you. And yeah, I hope the guys and girls who got across and saw it, you enjoyed it. We need to cover these issues. And I sort of rant, and sometimes I get exasperated when people are constantly, because they're going and looking at these reductionist sort of studies that people are talking about, rat studies and whatever else, and stuff that have been done. But I say, well, what's happening in the real world? Let's take a look at the real world. You go to to a restaurant where they're cooking stuff in these oils, or in what are the actual products? These oils are being cooked over and over again. What is that? That's what we really need to know. And when you've only got trace levels from oils that are being cooked over and over again for in that shorter period of time, obviously, if you cook them for far too many months, they will become more damaged, obviously. So, let alone something which is a real food. You're getting trace levels of that. A real food, you'll get nothing. You fry bacon or fry anything, you're going to get absolutely, below trace levels of aldehydes and these major. So you're not going to get any issue, really. Let's face it. And if you're in a low carbohydrate ketotic state, what your body will do is basically have more than enough glutathione to refresh your vitamin E, your vitamin C, and to basically make sure that that is reversible, as the study pointed out. The only people that should be concerned about anything is people that are cooking in seed oils and in a high carbohydrate state and a low glutathione state, and a low, and so have depleted a lot of their antioxidants like vitamin C. Well, some of them even struggle to get enough vitamin C into their cells. Let's not forget, most of the diabetics out there are getting peripheral neuropathy, having their legs and limbs chopped off, and basically have all these other issues for the simple reason that they can't actually even get or have a lot of connective tissue issues, because they can't even get the damn vitamin C in. You can supplement them and still they can't get it in because they're so insulin resistant. So, there is a difference between a very highly sensitive GLUT4 receptor that just sucks in the vitamin C and doesn't have to worry to compete at that receptor level, and somebody who's, eating shitloads of all these, bad things, which we know, which are called seed oils and refined sugars. Can't compare the two. And this is the problem. They compare this. That's what all the studies do. They put them on the general, what they call the high fat or rat, rat sort of feed. And what is that? It's basically they put a bit of lard in there. That's for the misdirection, if you haven't worked that out. And then they've got a whole lot of seed oil, and it's usually soybean oil. That's where it's coming from. And then the rest is a sort of a sucrose high sugar thing because it's easier to feed the animals and it's cheaper as well. Because if you're going to do it for a number of months, you need a cheap source of sugar. And so you've got a whole lot of fructose in there, whole lot of damaged fats. And then from that, they actually determine that it's the animal fat that's actually causal. You know, what the fuck? That's all I can actually say about that is. Anyway, let's move on to people's, please like. Good morning to you, Marco, as well. Good to see you, mate. And good morning, Alex. Why are you laughing? God. Damn, he's a troll, isn't he? He's been spanked. We tried using the nurse on him and Shell and everybody else in the earlier stream, but nothing works. I've given up. He's as toxic as Poofa from seed oils. That's one way of describing him. Oh well, you'll have to go back and watch it. Morning, mate. Could you, Gully, explain the observations Western Price made about a traditional eating style of eating for a German? Well, I don't think, because he actually went to the Swiss Alps. And the parts that he did go were sort of Germanic speaking or German speaking, which was in the northern part of Switzerland. And so, yes, they basically, there was a lot of things that, lifestyle was and all that. For instance, they would basically, as the actual snow came down and actually pushed the soils, you actually had some depletion of the topsoil as the what is it called? The God Almighty, the glacier type effect. The way it moves soils. This is how you get this sort of sediment of soil into the lowlands, into river systems, and all that. But what they would do is basically go at the bottom and actually dig it all up and actually transport it in horse and cart and take it back and put it on their farms, and to produce some plant-based stuff that they did produce. Obviously, like my father's family, because I do know a lot about my father, and I've spoken about it. Very similar. A lot of the actual those breads were basically, there was no sugar in them. They were just salt. They were allowed to ferment normally. They didn't have all these beer yeasts and stuff like that. That's why they solidified after a day. They were very high in protein. They would double the protein. They were also fermented in such a way where it broke down a lot of a lot of these traditional ones were, Zea bread actually came back from the Germanic people back to Greece because it was actually banned in Greece. Well, not banned, but restricted, because they basically really wanted to, well, it was technically banned, but it was through, restrictions on its, and eventually sort of nearly died out, was kept in villages, and it was brought back. But that was a traditional type of low, 10 times less gluten than today's hybridized shit. So very different, the type of breads in the past, less gluten, and less problem, and people didn't consume as much. It was very small amounts that they did. It was basically a bit of a filler, no different than basically how they used beer as a sort of a filler because water quality was, questionable, stuff like that. But they were very physically active as well, so they burnt any of that small amount of glycogen anyway, so it wasn't a big thing. And we need to nuance that, lifestyle factors are at play as well in that regard. So we can't ignore that. But traditionally, their culture was a very much a dairy culture. I mean, even today, Swiss, when it comes to milk consumption, I've shown the stats before on my chats with Bart, and the milk consumption is very similar to the Greeks. The Greeks are sort of very different in the Mediterranean. they're not like the other Mediterranean people. We do consume quite a bit of dairy, and that goes right back to antiquity. So that hasn't changed, and I love dairy anyway. And I would say that their diet would be a meat-based diet, which would be primarily like northern Greece. It would be basically more, basically cattle. And in that regard, in some areas there'd be a bit of goat as well. Sheep you would get in some parts of Germany as well. In lower lands you would find some sheep. It was a mixed bag. So pork was very important throughout the whole of Europe. For Germans, up until after the Second World War, Germans were some of the biggest consumers of pork in Europe. So it's been in the tradition of consuming pork. Greeks are very much the same, especially southern Greeks, are very big pork consumers, and central Greece and all that. It's northern Greece, which is because there's a lot of cattle, there's other things, goats and stuff like that, and they tend to vary. The islanders are very much sheep and goat, but primarily goat, because most of those rocky islands, well, basically it's sheep on the ones that are larger islands. On the smaller islands that are more rocky, it's just goats. So primarily, he would have observed people that are consuming these type of animal products, pickled vegetables and stuff like that would have been, so fermented pickled vegetables and stuff like that would have been the focus of the sort of foods that they had, which have some probiotics, kefir and whatever else. But they weren't, guzzling down kefir every day. No, it is something that they actually had periodically, like fermented foods and stuff like that. But it wasn't a constant thing. But you would have pickled stuff and all that. And Greeks traditionally, before we had the modern supermarket with everything was seasonal. And I remember back in the 70s, through spring, and early summer and most of winter, you basically had it was sort of pickled stuff and all that, and it was very much heavy dairy-based yogurts, things of that sort. And really the only real grain that was being consumed was basically this sourdough type bread that had this sort of traditional sort of makeup there, which was much lower in gluten, and you wouldn't consume much of it anyway. I sometimes didn't consume any, So, most of the younger people that I remember, we consumed a lot of dairy products, in particular the yogurts and the thick yogurts, not the runny, like today's runny yogurts, like shit. We're talking about really thick, because you put it in actually, traditionally you take it and you tie it to get rid of the moisture, and you keep on tying it until you get more and more rid of the moisture until there's very little. It's very thick, and you have to you spoon it. In a sense, it's a very thick type of food. I love it, And I still sometimes, when I buy yogurt, I actually do that to my yogurt. I get rid of the moisture, the water content. Pisses me off how much water is in a lot of yogurts nowadays. So that's the sort of things that you would have found in those sort of areas. There would have been some seasonal foods that would have come in from up the lowlands. There would have been some foods that they would have grown, some vegetables and all that, all cooked. Nobody ate raw. That's just modern day stupidity. Everybody likes to rip their guts by eating raw stuff. Most things were either fermented, either basically cooked, and a lot of them were soaked and stuff like that to break down the phytic acids and break down all the actual anti-nutrients. My dad still does it, beans and lentils, they're literally soaked for whole weeks. So nothing's changed there. And so you get more bioavailability, less anti-nutrients and stuff like that. You get a starch component, but if you're physically active, it doesn't really affect the Randall cycle or anything like that. Nowadays, people are basically office workers, more sedentary. That is more of an issue. And those sort of foods were basically fillers. I mean, even my dad today follows the same tradition. Even in Greece, we remember it was probably once a week that we had beans, because it's a hassle. You have to basically put them in water and clean it, and empty the water and keep them until, and that's the problem. And we don't enjoy it doing that constantly. You wouldn't do it. Vegans are just crazy, but that's vegans for you. Yes. Yeah. Oops. But I will do an N15 on the isotope analysis of older Germans, not the modern type Germans, but older Germans, and look into your genetics, like I did with the Greeks, the N15 isotope analysis. And that will be interesting. And I suspect I'll find something very similar, So, because these populations were pastoral, my ancestors were pastoral as well. Most Europeans primarily are pastoral. And the most pastoral are the Irish. Yes, there you go. They have the most lactose persistent genes out of everyone in Europe. Lucky them. Can you give a omega-6 need? Can you give omega-6 needs for health and its side effects, please? Especially for sensitive people, foods like pork, eggs, yolks, chickens, why it causes inflammation. A whole lot of reasons. It could be the fatty acid profile. It could be the protein profile. It could be just, certain proteins, like in that. I know that people have reaction to the whites of eggs, and where they don't have yolks. I've never really heard sensitivity to yolks. That I haven't heard. No idea where that would come from, personally. The only thing that I could actually think of is if you're inflamed, that means you've got a lot of inflammation in your body and you've got a lot of damage and stuff like that. Your body may be dealing with that and can't deal with some of the oxidation in some of these foods. I've actually found people that actually have consumed, well, you can't consume pork raw. Well, you can, but it's much more riskier. Where I found people that have got a lot of food sensitivities, when they do a lot of raw food type animal products, they tend to basically be much better. They don't have these issues. So it may not actually be even the foods, it just may be the cooking effect that they just can't handle. It also could be with their stomach acid is not sufficiently low enough because of damage and all that. It's really hard to say. Everybody's going to be different, and you really need to look at what could be the drivers and all that in food sensitivity. There's some genetics as well, so there's a lot of things, but also pre-existing damage that make you more vulnerable to certain types of things. So it's really hard to give one answer to these sort of things. It's really hard. But obviously also foods that have pork tends to have a few other things, which is a problem. Modern day pork they tend to overuse antibiotics in porks. Why? Because they feed them everything, and that's another problem. Where cattle, if they're pastured grass fed, they're not pumping them full of antibiotics. That's the other sort of thing. If you're gonna buy pork, it's gotta be organic, antibiotic free. Yes, it is more expensive, but that's the sort of stuff I buy in Tasmania, and I only use because I might as well be guzzling down glyphosate, because that's registered with the patent office in the US as an antibiotic in a number of other countries. And that's another reason for all of the gut issues that people have from a lot of the vegetables and stuff like that. because of the high glyphosate. Some of these things we didn't react to. They're not optimal, but we didn't react to. So why are we reacting today? Potentially because of the glyphosate, I would say, is one big driver. So, you know, gut microbiome and disturbances in the gut microbiome because of this. So it's a much more complicated story in that regard. Modern foods have a lot of these other issues, the way they're prepared, fillers, pork, cured products. They've got a lot of fillers and stuff like that. I mean, the pork that I get from the Signet butchers, it basically has none of that. It's just basically traditionally cured with salts, and it just smoked. That's it, nothing else. So nothing to be a problem. It's very traditional. Where today's type of products have got sugar in there, have got all sorts of things, and so people are going to react differently and all that. So it's really hard to really know what exactly is causing that inflammation. But from one thing that I have noticed is when people go organic, which means they eliminate foods, animal foods that are potentially could be fed glyphosate grains, or especially in the US, you know, in many other countries, glyphosate is either not used or is, especially in Europe, it's illegal in many countries. So it's less of a problem. And I remember there was who was it now? It's a lady that actually she's in the sort of carnivore community. I'm trying to remember her name. She went to Greece with a boyfriend. He's a dark fellow, an African-American, I think he is. I'm not sure. But they went together to Greece. And she said, I was eating all these sort of foods and I didn't, I was eating bread and these sort of things. I didn't have any reaction. And I go, because glyphosate is not used in that country. In most European countries, it is illegal. It's not used. And, when you restrict antibiotic use in a country, it's less of a problem. But when you allow it, it does become a problem. And even some milks, if normally in most countries, if you're going to use antibiotics on cows, like the company that I get the milk from, they will take it out of the herd. They will give it the antibiotics because, if you've got an infection that could potentially kill the animal, you've got to give it antibiotics. But you take it, you separate it out of the herd and you allow it to heal. And then once you don't have any more of these issues, then you bring it back into production. And that's what is done by these people who do organic, who do this sort of stuff. The regular sort of people out there don't give a shit. And so you will get some of these things, and they can, some people are more sensitive. Some people that have got a number of health issues are far more sensitive to disturbances of the gut microbiome than the average person. So there's a lot of different issues where it's coming from. So before I can actually answer somebody specifically, I need to know their history, their situation, and to be able to say, yep, it's probably this is the driver. You've probably got leaky gut. You've probably got a disturbance in your gut microbiome because of these other foods you're combining, or sourcing your foods from these sort of places. So yeah, it's a complicated story why the sort of drivers in that regard. Most beef in Europe, and this is the thing in Europe, is pastured because you've got a lot of green grass. And as most ruminants like things like beef, lamb, and goat are fairly safe when it comes to antibiotic situation. Pork, unfortunately, isn't, unless you get it from an organic producer. Anyway, and the same thing goes for eggs, and the same thing goes for chickens, unfortunately, because of the stuff they fed. And also some European countries also are importing from the US grains, and they have glyphosate in them. So that's the other thing. So, not some European countries import from other countries like like Ukraine and a few other areas around the world which don't have that issue. So it depends where you're sourcing the grain, or your farmers are sourcing the grain. So it's hard for consumers. I understand. I believe in consumer law that actually covers these things much better, which it doesn't. Yeah, but unfortunately, that's the situation. That you have to do your own research sometimes of your own food supply. Yeah, that's where we can't even trust the governments are going to cover us on these issues, and they don't even consider these things as an issue. That's how problematic it is, anyway. Look at Swiss. Yep, that's right. Yep, raw dairy was very important to them. Well, to most Europeans, raw dairy was very important. And StreamYard moved. Thank you, StreamYard, for doing that. Harry, what's the deal with inositol? Saw you mention it in a comment regarding choline. Well, it's a plant-based derivative of choline. Well, it usually comes from soy. And the problem is it has other issues because it comes from soy. You can also get inositol from eggs, but they don't. I think there's only one supplement company I've come across that does that. It's very costly, and it tends to be double the price. That's why they don't do it. It's easy to get it from grains. So I usually go for pharmaceutical grade, which is basically something created in a lab. And it's usually, that's, because all of them, all supplements, processed stuff is going to have some level of deuterium. But the problem with some of these that are coming from soy and stuff like that are going to have more other issues, whether it's glyphosate, whether, all other trace things that are going to be in there that really you don't want in your body. Simple as that. So that's where my comment actually came from. So I get 100% pure choline that is actually pharmaceutical grade. So that's the way I approach it. And it's only it's a filler for me. It's not an everyday thing. I mean, I had nothing today because I had a couple of eggs. So it's just when I don't, because I have to support that pathway, I do have genetic reasons why I have to support that pathway far more than others. But, I know if people have fatty liver, then I usually do recommend that they actually consume everyday choline supplementation of, a couple of grams, especially at least 3 grams, until they deal with the issue. Anyway, let's move on. I am Dutch, use a lot of raw dairy. I know, Alex, we've spoken about it many times, and that's good. Actually, you guys have got some really nice Gouda. I do buy some Dutch Gouda. I do enjoy it. Good morning. Good morning, Dave from Barcelona. Good to see you, mate. I envy you. It's nice and warm down there, isn't it? We're just coming into the summer. So, but even now in winter, it's probably quite mild in Barcelona. It's probably like our summers in Hobart. I'm not kidding. It does. Helps a lot of things. Gallbladder helps. The liver, it helps. The brain, it helps. The heart, it helps. The kidneys, it helps throughout the body in so many ways. So, I mean, I've covered choline primarily from the methylation side of things, and I've covered things from, fatty liver and stuff like that. But at some point, I will have to make something about, like I'm going to with taurine. But I do want taurine because it's a lot of other people that I've noticed in my sort of grouping tend to be in that older age bracket. And so taurine is a more critical thing for a number of things like beta amyloid and a whole lot of other things, heart issues and whatever. And so I do want to focus primarily on that. But, eventually I will do something on choline additionally, because I've part of the methylation series as well, which is that other part that I was doing, but I haven't covered the choline pathway, so I have to cover that for methylation as well, part 2. Yes, so that's another one in the future that I've neglected, but it will happen. G'day T2, good to see you, Bowbird. G'day Dominic. Sheep on the southern island. Yes. Oh, yes, New Zealand. Yes, I get it. Are there more down there on the southern island? Probably are. There's more grass. It's more green, because it's the northern island, especially the northern part, tends to be subtropical, I think, or close to being. It's borderline, because it's, I think from memory. Do correct me, any Kiwis out there that think I may be wrong. Vivid Mouse, good evening to you. You're in this part of the world, I presume. Oops. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, StreamYard. You keep on doing that. You keep on moving me up and down where my mouse doesn't work. Yes, this Mr. Mouse is basically being StreamYarded, abused. Yes. Dark in your neck of the woods, mate. Yes. But you don't have to worry. You've got good genes when it comes to basically lactose persistent genes. You guys over there are pretty much nearly 100%. Highest in the world. Will you critique this morning's breakfast for me? Beef fat, trimmings, lamb liver, reheated leftover lambs, slow cooked or fried, low heat in yesterday's rendered fat. Not an issue. Not an issue whatsoever, Angela. Not an issue. Enjoy. As I said, I showed that other vid just a moment ago, and they were basically, we're talking about fryers, industrial fryers in restaurants that have been cooking that lard, and the reality is not an issue whatsoever. You've cooked a second time. Whoopee. Absolutely not an issue. You cook it multiple times for weeks, stuff, and we're talking about for multiple hours. It's been cooked and kept at a certain temperature, so you can. Restaurants and fast food, I know, you keep it at a certain temperature, and you keep on shoving the actual basket with the chips or the whatever else you're frying, because we used to do it. We ran a fish and chip shop, and basically I can tell you, yes, it doesn't. You don't turn it off until from 7 in the morning right to 10 in the evening, exactly. And you're doing that every friggin' day, let alone what you're doing. A few minutes here and then you've, God almighty, don't even worry about it. I mean, you're getting trace elements on the other thing. What are you getting? Next to nothing. So don't concern yourself at all. Okay. Is it on butter? Let's just share that for a moment from Alex. Oops. Wrong one. Look at it. So that's Dutch. So And it's actually had an award as well, has it? Okay. It's award-winning butter. There you go. So if you're in that part of the world and you can get access to this butter, yes, it looks fairly good. We'll just please. Not the sort of use I'd put it on a steak rather than bread. Anyway, there's the information. That is what's in it. Sort of standard stuff. That would have to be the fat. That would have to be the salt. Anyway. Two of my favourite things, salt and fat. Anyway, there we go. I made it finally. Yes, you did. It's good to have you here. Frankie? I couldn't help myself. It wasn't those primitive humans millions of years, all the chimps. No, Frankie. He went back millions of years in a time machine. Nobody told you this story. I'm telling it to you now. God almighty. I couldn't help myself. Hope you got a few laughs out of it. Anyway, indeed, it was good earlier today. Nap in the afternoon. Actually, I did not have much of a nap. I just sat back, quickly chatted to somebody on the phone, and then basically, but they were actually doing some stuff, so that wasn't for long. And then I went for a nice walk up the hill, the Mount Stewart, that hill, the steep one. But obviously I didn't go into the reserve. I came back down the other way and did a bit of a longer walk just in the sun, enjoying getting a bit of vitamin D and all that. And that was the focus, basically. You bad bird. You birds have got far more poofer. God. Watch out for the pork. He's been very protective of himself, isn't he? Watch out for that. Exactly. Don't be nasty. Be nice to T2. God almighty, hostilities have already started between those two. That's it. Damn. Yeah. My great-grandfather lived to 107. I don't know why he lived to 107. Friggin' hell. Oh, I know. Frankie went back with a time machine and advised him how to actually follow a proper diet with honey to survive. That's what it was, yeah. Yeah, it must have been. Damn trolls. If you are inflamed, that means you have inflammation in your body. Something along those lines. You could be inflamed for other reasons. Extra booze. I dehydrated some liver. Nothing better than liver. Have you tried that? Remember that I mentioned the using some rosemary and all that, and sort of marinating it with rosemary and all that, and getting the smell of rosemary, and then barbecuing it and making it into really sort of dehydrated with, should try it. I know, I can't remember who did. Somebody did. They mentioned it to me and I forgot. Poor memory. Must be going senile. where did the people get their salt hundreds and thousands of years ago? Well, primarily a lot of them in waterways. So people lived in coastal areas. If you take a look at the archaeological evidence, it's quite clear that people didn't live in the interior. It's only when civilization emerged that people moved into the interior. If you look at around the world, tribal, they moved around river systems and coastal areas. And when you're in river systems and coastal areas, you've got access to salt. And that's how. The other source was basically from the blood of animals that they killed. So that's another source. You see it with the Samburu, the Sand people of the Kalahari, the Bushmen. They do the same thing. When they kill, they basically drink the blood and they share it amongst themselves. And then they will tie up the actual, where they've cut the animal open, they will tie that up to keep the blood in there so you don't get any loss of the blood. They will take it back to the tribe so they can get second dibs of that as well. So your body also can actually upregulate antidiuretic hormones, which basically can I'll send you the link. I'm doing it now. I did invite Bart earlier, but he said he was going to be busy with something else, but apparently not, which is good. We can get some Kiwi magic or comedy. There you go, just send it to you. Yeah, so basically riverbeds and stuff like that. If you have insufficient salt, populations that have insufficient salt for a very, very long time, they have been found, and there actually are renin-angiotensin genes, specific genes, where some people basically can, without creating this sort of, elevated cortisol and elevated, the sort of these, norepinephrine, epinephrine, without elevating these sort of hormones to very high levels, they're actually able to keep them in the more normalized levels. And we're not talking about a lot of populations around the world. There are variations and small pockets here and there that some people don't require as much sodium because they can recycle it, and they can actually maintain it much better because of these differences in these genetic differences. But the majority of us have had access to salt in, coastally and through riverbeds. I mean, some of the best salt is actually from riverbeds, believe me. When I get from Western Australia, from Margaret River, and some of the salt from the Margaret River it actually has like a sweetness to it because of the mineral content that comes down the river. It has a sort of a sweetness to it. It actually is, it's a sweeter salt. If you've never tried it, you should. The Margaret River type, it is really nice salt. I can actually eat it like food. That's how nice it is. And if I'm going to basically use it, I use the other salt, which is the lake salt, on my steaks. When it comes to basically the river salt, I'll use it like for, let's say it's summer. Right now, I'm not actually putting really much. The salt that I get is dry salt. I get it from the food that I've packed on my meat and stuff like that. But if I'm basically, T1's actually, he knows the area. If basically I'm, in summer where I'm going to dehydrate and stuff like that, and I want to basically put back the trace minerals and keep my electrolytes in good nick so I don't lose too much sodium, then, because you don't really, the thing that magnesium and potassium, you don't really sweat much of that out, very little. It's really sodium that you sweat out. So what you need to do is have a good sodium source that you can put in water and consume, which is going to be enjoyable, nice and sweet. That's what I think anyway. That's me. So let me just see if I can find that Margaret River salt. It is a bit more pricier than some of the others. Well, shit happens. It's considered a lot of chefs, top restaurants use it as well. So let me share that right now. I'll send you the link, but has it come through? Oh, there he is. Hold on, I'm showing this, so you'll have to wait. So that is basically the Margaret River stuff. It is really nice. So there's the river that goes past there. In restaurants, very popular. It's had plenty of awards, and that's pretty much. I get it in a container. It's not like that. It's a square. It's a bit like that. That's exactly that is a sort of container that I usually get. I'll add up there. G'day, mate.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Good to see you. And so there is in the background, you can see it. That's the sort of container that I get it. It is really nice. Guys, if you ever want to have really a sweeter tasting salt, that river salt is really nice.
There's nothing better than something that's salt to south, is there, Harry?
Mate, exactly. I actually have looked at my genes, and basically I actually am one of those people that actually require more salt than the regular person.
Yeah.
So there are some people that are really require. I find that if I'm basically not salting sufficiently, I can really get very high heart palpitations and lose a lot of the other minerals very fast.
Interesting.
So I'm much more.
What's your take, Harry? What's your position on Pim did an interview this week actually with our good friend who suggested who suggested that salt was, well, he was taking salt out of his diet entirely, completely as an additive thing, and he was like, I'm just going to have whatever salt's in the food I eat, and I'm not going to add any. And he feels it's been a benefit to him.
It probably is, because there are some people in the world that, because their populations, especially in Asia, in parts of Asia, that they've had a lot of salt restriction for a number of generations. And what has actually happened is there have been some genetic changes to the renin-angiotensin genes that are involved. And those people, it's a bit like the choline thing. 76% un-Chinese have that, and the rest of the world have fuck all.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare things here and there. And it's the same thing with salt. It's the same thing with a lot of things, that you'll always get some outliers, populations and groups and whatever, that have slightly different because of an adaptation. They've not had something in their diet for a very long period of time, and the body's just adapted.
Yeah.
And I think that's more that than anything else. So those people probably can recycle much better sodium. And if they add too much sodium, they may actually induce a bit more other sort of feelings that, potentially even blood pressure and stuff like that. But that's not because of it's because of the genetic changes that are not ancestral, but they are something that has actually happened in the modern era, and in particular populations that have consumed very high carbohydrate diets for a very long, like grains and stuff like that, and very limited animal foods. You notice these genetic, and it's because, if you remember that German guy that I did the program, the chat with Pim about Walter Kempner, did research back then and actually showed that if you have very high elevated insulin due to the high carbohydrate. You have to really lower the fat. You have to he didn't understand the Randall cycle because, Philip Randall's, that was 1963. This is 30 years prior. But they were experimenting back then and trying different approaches and all that. And what they did notice is...
That's for you, T2. T2 is loving the t-shirt. So T2, that's for you.
Oh, yes.
This is from a concert I attended in Auckland, New Zealand, in 2010, where Metallica played the Auckland event. They actually had to play 2 nights because what happened was the first night sold out in minutes, literally in minutes, and everyone was like, "Oh, you cunts," and shit. And so they said, "Okay, right, fuck. What we'll do, since we're coming all the way to fucking New Zealand, we'll play 2 nights because no other cunt comes to New Zealand, frankly. When I was living in the UK for 7, when I was living in the UK for 7 years, it was great because you could go to concerts any week you liked. Some cunt was playing somewhere because it goes on. Like I have seen Seether play 4 times.
Okay.
I've seen the Tremonti Project play live 4 times. I've seen Alter Bridge 3 times. I've seen Nickelback twice. I've seen Maroon 5 twice, even because my ex-wife loved that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And you could do that before all this bullshit anyway. But people don't realize that live on the other side of the world. Down here in the antipodes, fucking nobody comes here to play music.
Well, Hobart's the same thing.
Well, it costs so much to get there, so it's just not worth their doing it.
Well,
Anywho,
Tasmania's the same thing.
Well, exactly. I mean, I get that, but the thing is, an act like Metallica actually have the wherewithal, and they can come to New Zealand and they can play. And so they had a concert in 2010. It sold out in 2 minutes or something fucking ridiculous like that. And so they said, "Fuck it, let's put on a second one." And they did.
Mate, were you scalped for that reason?
Well, no, myself and CDX wife were at first concert. We were in, and because I was there, I was waiting. You know how it is. It opens at 9 a.m. Right, you bastards! Refresh. Anyway, we got we were there. We were there for the first one. So that's what this t-shirt came from. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, look, it's pretty hard. I mean, probably we've had very few really big like there was years ago U2. There's very little. I mean, the majority of the acts you have to go to Melbourne or Sydney.
Yep.
Which is a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yep.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
We're too far away from anything.
You might recognise it. Can't do it.
You're out of practice, mate.
Yeah. So
guess what Vivid Mouse said? You butchered it.
Oh, look, fuck! I've never claimed to be a professional musician. Yeah, those guys deserve maximum big ups that they can get, because we all show up and expect them to be perfect every time, and actually, it's hard. It's hard stuff to do. Yeah.
Marshall Lord K. mate.
I know. I've gained a lot in the last bit. Those that haven't caught up on that one, I'm now an official legal lord of the British realm by way of the established Highland titles. I own a plot of land in Aberdeenshire in Scotland.
Gotcha.
Which qualifies me by the English feudal system as a laird, which the Crown recognises as equivalent to an English lord. So I'm a lord legally and actually. So fuck you all.
Well, there you go.
you may all call me my lord now. Yeah.
Still funny.
Yeah, it is. It's hilarious because the actual qualification.
Are you going to use this? Are you going to use this as an approach with when you're debating vegans? No, that's not my name. You know, and remind them that they should be
Lord, if you please,
according to your title.
My lord. No, yeah. For me, it's
you will address me as my lord.
That's it, my lord. No, Harry, you need to understand this one because a lot of people have misconstrued this entirely. And it's number one, it's because it's so funny. Okay, this is a loophole in the English system that has never been closed. It's a loophole that's existed for hundreds and hundreds of years in the English honours system.
Gotcha.
And then it dates back over nearly 1,000 years actually to a feudal system whereby men who owned land in the Highlands of Scotland were recognised at that time by the British Crown automatically. If you owned land in the Highlands of Scotland, you were then there are a few things that come along with it. You become responsible for anyone who is on your land. You become their landlord. You become their tribal leader, if you like. And the Scottish title there is laird, Laird, laird,
yes.
Which is actually equivalent to the English word lord, as in someone who owns some land and who is recognised by the British Crown as someone of standing. And at that time, the British Crown, several, what is 1,000 years ago or whatever it was, had, I don't know, maybe it was 1,000 years ago, maybe it wasn't that many, but it was, a goodly number of hundreds at least, where the Crown recognised the lairds as being equivalent to an English lord because, let's not upset those jocks because they can be a bit of a problem if you upset them, frankly. So let's just say, we'll call you my lord and shit. That's fine. Okay, so from that point on, anyone who owns land in the Highlands of Scotland is thereby the tribal leader of the land that he or she should own and is called laird, or the feminine equivalent is lady, obviously. And the British Crown will recognise it as such. You are a genuine member of the nobility. You're a member of the nobility of the British Empire. Anyway, I've bought some land in Scotland. It's in Aberdeenshire. I am a laird, so therefore I'm a lord. Get fucked. Some people won't like it, but I don't care. That's how it is. And
I hope you use it well in regards to your
it doesn't change
with the veg tarted.
Absolutely, but it doesn't change any of the facts, does it, Harry? The facts
doesn't. But we're still going to have fun with it.
Oh, you bet. Absolutely. Exactly. Good Lord, yes. Good Lord, yes. You bet.
Pork leg with bacon in slow cooker. That's a nice way to do it.
Sounds good.
They had slow cookers back then.
No. I know I can do this.
Stone Age slow cooker from Dominic. Nice one, mate. Nice one.
There you go. That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you getting there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had a bit of fun, I noticed. You're back into doing a bit of exercise, and are you doing any weight lifting at the moment or not?
Yeah, I'm doing a well, it's a targeted program, Harry. I'm going to make an announcement very, very soon that will be public for all to see, both on my main channel and on that other channel where it's about the meat militia and stuff. A field operation is in order. It's been too long that I've been sat behind a microphone. I've been sat behind a camera. I've been basically sat on my cunt doing fuck all, Harry. And I've become a bit of a liability in terms of my ability to be operationally fit for active duty. So the Field Marshal has decided that won't stand, it won't do whatsoever. And there is an operation that I will be announcing very, very soon coming up, a physical operation that I will be leading myself, for which there will be a significantly required level of physical fitness. And that started yesterday when I filmed that video of marching up and downstairs. And for those of you who are remotely concerned about my well-being today, fuck me, I'm as stiff as a honeymoon prick. I can tell you. Fuck. Oh my god. The video you saw of me walking up and down the stairs was the first time up and down. That was the recon. That was so that you could see what it was I was going to be doing. After that, it was a couple of reps up and down there with malice aforethought, and I can tell you today, I feel like if anybody has the answer and you have a loaded gun and you could end it all, perhaps you could, front up here.
You're stiff and you're in pain.
Oh my god, my soleus muscles are going like wee, 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 and my quads are like, Charlie Brown, we discussed this. What are you doing?
How are your glutes, your bum muscles?
No, they're okay. They're the one thing that, I'm not suffering there. I'm suffering soleus a bit. I'm suffering quads a bit.
Okay.
So I'm doing that, and
but do you realise that sometimes it can actually migrate to the glutes over time as you do this exercise? Because that happened to me.
Yeah.
And because I was doing a lot of, and I was getting all the pain in the other areas, and then months down the track, we're not talking about like a couple of days, but months down the track, those were out of whack with my glutes, and I can tell you I started getting pain in the glutes.
Yeah.
And that was not funny, especially when you're working in an office work. Yeah, I can tell you. And I actually got a rolling pin for that.
Yep.
I would recommend you get a rolling pin before, to do it occasionally as well.
Yes, maybe.
Just think of all the fun.
Well, yes. So what's going to be happening is that, I'll let you know in the full disclosure statement that's coming soon. But basically, we're looking at a 12-month training period of PT, where I'm going to get my shit together physical fitness wise. And there are various plans afoot for that, and various progressions and various things, etc. Including I've got a weighted vest on order that's coming. And the field operation is going to be a loaded march. It's going to be humping an amount of weight, a set distance.
Humping, mate. Don't use the word humping.
Well, it's a military term. It means to put it on your back and carry the bastard. So I'm gonna put some weight on my back, and I'm going to carry the bastard for a distance over a certain time, and there'll be a time limit, and there'll be a certain distance to cover, and it'll be a significant weight, and it will be a significant distance, and I will lead the operation myself, starting from an undisclosed and well, I guess classified location, and ending in a classified location, of course, with a set distance which will be published, and that's what's going to be happening. For those that want some sort of a spoiler before the actual announcement, the amount of weight that I'm going to hump is 45 pounds, which is basically 20 kilograms plus a bit. And the distance I'm going to cover will blow your fucking minds, actually, in 12 months from now. And there'll be several events which will be mapped into the calendar at sooner than 1 year hence from now that we can follow. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do this sponsored for the appropriate charity. And I'm not sure who that is yet. Okay. But I think we need to have a charity that actually deserves some fundage, and so that counts out the Heart Foundation, that counts out the Diabetes Association, that counts out all of these fucking idiots that have no fucking idea what they're doing at all. But my idea is to march a significant distance with 45 pounds on my back. 12 months hence. So there you go.
Sounds good. Sounds like a really good goal to have.
Yeah,
I know that there's the carnival research that is being conducted out of Harvard. I can't remember the research. I'm trying to remember the researcher, but it's the one that Dr. Sean Baker has been promoting. Which is a good thing. So you're looking at doing something potentially similar, or him on in terms of our sort of lifestyle or whatever, and try and get a fund on that. You stop spilling the beans, kids. You'll have to wait.
Classified. All I can say is there'll be a charity. It'll be an appropriate charity. We're not sure what it'll be yet. I will be humping some weight. It will be 45 pounds. In other words, 20 kilograms. There will be a time limit. There will be a distance I need to cover. It'll be 12 months from now, give or take. There'll be several events leading up to it. The first event will be a half marathon hump. The second event will be a marathon hump. And I'll spill the beans. It'll be 100 kilometers. It'll be 60 kilometers. It'll be 60 miles.
That's pretty good.
It'll be 60 miles with 25. Sorry, it'll be 60 miles with 20 kilos on my back, 45 pounds, and the time limit will be 24 hours.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's
what
really
I'm
interesting.
However, to make it
using a GoPro type.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and it'll be all tracked and it'll be all bona fide and stuff. It'll also be in the hills of Nelson. Now, I don't know if you saw my video I posted with the stairs.
Yeah, I did.
That showed that 3D of the.
Yep.
So you'll understand that it's a significantly mountainous area that I live in, and it's all up in. So it'll be up in there.
What's the average elevation through there?
Oh, look, it's average elevation be damned. It changes by several thousand feet.
Okay,
Over.
okay,
Yeah,
so
there are some.
it's quite varied then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it'll be up and down. It'll be in that. So it's not going to be a flat march either. Oh, and by the way, just for fun, it's going to be on day 7 of a 7-day fast that I'm going to undertake this. Because I want to prove a number of points all at once.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So that's what's happening. That's the operation. Because basically your field marshal has got flabby and soft over the last 2 years sitting around his cunt. There'll be no more cunt sitting. I'm gonna get myself back into operational shape, and we're gonna do an op.
And your supreme leader has told you have to do something about it.
Do you mean Her Majesty?
Well, precisely.
Queen Pim of the pirates. First name, mother of fluffies, all of that. Yeah. Brigadier Kelly's in the house. Brigadier Kelly, good to see you. Yes, that will teach me to be marching up and upstairs. Won't it? Did you ask the fluffies whether they had anything better to do than marching up and down? None of them said they had a book they'd rather read, or they'd rather spend the time with their wife and kids or be in pictures.
Good thing about dogs, they'll follow you anywhere.
They will. Also, who noticed Fluffy tripping over one or two of those stairs and struggling with them because they were just a bit much for her?
We did notice a bit, and we noticed also she went sideways to get into the actual, where it wasn't, where she could actually go via a more leveled sort of, just she'd come back on the track where there was too much vegetation.
Yeah.
Couldn't get through it. So is this a challenge, T2? You're going to basically, do it with kettlebells? No, I got my
Yes. So, try cycling 14k on a mountain bike. What?
14k on a mountain bike with seat too low in high gear into a New Zealand southerly heading wind.
Listen, like I've only got a couple of things to say to that, really, Harry, and they are this: Richard, sort your fucking kit out before you start. Don't make it harder for yourself, son. Richard, sort your fucking kit out. It's not hard. Goodness me.
And you've got a high bar from Mandy.
Awesome.
From the UK.
Very good. You'll have to give me a moment, Harry. I'm going to have to excuse myself, and I shall.
Yeah, that's okay. Be nice. God almighty. Given the tap and bottled water has deuterium content of 155 parts per million, does it make sense to drink a lot of water? Do you even need drinking to drink if you eat enough animal fat? Well, tribally, traditionally, and this is really important, like the Sand people, what they do is they use ostrich eggs, and they get these plants which are slightly thick plants which have been deuterium depleted. So the fluids in those, they actually munch them together and actually squeeze out the fluid water into the ostrich egg. And so the water that they consume is deuterium depleted. Really important, the difference. So I tend to basically hydrate when I'm basically really thirsty, and I primarily try to prioritize things like fat in the diet, which will provide sufficient hydration, and that's really important.
Is this carnivore, Harry?
Definitely, mate. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Go
awesome.
for it.
Awesome. Good. So what are you cunts talking about?
Oh, well, hey, look at what this guy said about.
Remove the... Yeah, I bet you would, T1.
He's a fucking Westie.
Yeah, you'd remove the seat so long as T2 was the next bastard to sit on it, wouldn't you? Oh, boy.
Those two are sick puppies, I can tell you.
Oh, fuck.
Borrow up to get to work.
Jesus. That's a sad state of affairs, isn't it?
Yes, it is. With this sort of crowd.
It's a tough crowd tonight, Harry. Tough crowd.
Oh, bloody hell. I've been basically trolling both T2 and T1 around the place, and I've put the fear of God in them a bit. They're a bit tamer now. They seem to be a bit tamer.
Yeah, I'm not
trolling the trolls.
Speaking of the trolls, I don't know who was on Sky's live stream this morning, but fuck, that was a hoot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Actually, I was on there earlier.
My goodness.
Yeah, I did get up early, but then again, I had a whole lot of other things that I was doing, laundry and shit like that, and then I've nearly missed my own live stream. I realised, oh shit!
Don't you have staff for that, Harry? The laundry and shit. What's going on?
I'm not that rich. I mean, in Southeast Asia, when I'm at, wages are much different, and it makes it much easier.
So
I saw that sort of stuff.
I just noticed in the chat there, Harry, that Björn is saying that Sleepy Joe won the election. Any thoughts? That's a can of worms. Do we want to go there? Do we want to talk about
it? Not really. We're not Americans, actually.
We're not. But, I mean, I guess I'll just say one thing, and that is that any of you that think Joe has legitimately won this election, you are out of your fucking mind. I'm not saying Trump is great. I'm not saying I support Trump. But if you think Joe Biden won that election legitimately and legally, you are out of your fucking mind. That's all.
Enough about the legal system over there to make a comment. I mean, I know the postal votes in Australia are counted and are legitimate, but I don't know what the American system. And I know their states have different rules in different states. They're all over the place. I don't know about New Zealand would be the same. But even though
he should have built a wall, Harry.
Australia has an Australian Electoral Commission, and so it's a unified system. So every state follows a very similar sort of a federal policy on that. I mean, we've got local, like the Tasmanian Electoral Commission or whatever, but the rules are established quite clear, and they're not changed every year or every now and then between states and stuff like that. So the American system just confuses me. It's so all over the place. You don't know what is legitimate in one state or another. And there's too much political involvement. I mean, it's similar because of the British system, like in New Zealand. Public prosecution officers are not elected; they're appointed based on their merit. In the US, they're elected, and it's a political thing. So the judiciary is over politicized. There are just too many things over politicized. But they're a nation that's actually come out of a civil war and a war of independence, and they tend to be, when you look at nations like that, China, Russia, those sort of nations, they tend to be more, the populations will be more, let's say, I mean, Australians and New Zealanders are the same, and I think the North American crowd don't, and the British are the same. once elections are over, we get on other things. We chill out. We're too, I don't know, too chilled out, too lazy to basically get out in the streets and shoot each other, basically. Where in those countries, it just seems that the value of life is, I don't know, it's very different. And so, yeah, I won't make any more comments on that. It's a very different part of the world, the way they operate politically and stuff like that. Sure. Personally, I prefer the Australian, New Zealand sort of British approach, and even the chilled out and stuff like that, not being too caught up at the end.
I think I don't know about the Australian system, Harry, but the New Zealand system needs a look at as well. It's like we had a good system, and it was changed a few years back when I was a young nipper, and they decided to go for this crazy idea called mixed member proportional representational, where you have X number of electorate seats, in other words, members of parliament who represent an electorate area, and then a total number of parliamentarians that exceeds the number of electorates by quite a bit. And then what happens in New Zealand is that we get 2 votes. We get to vote for our local MP, who we think that should be, and we get to vote then for the party that we think should hold the balance of power in the House of Representatives. And so we have 2 ticks basically. And so if you're a supporter,
you guys only have one chamber, the law,
Yeah. We have one chamber. We have a single House of Parliament. Yeah. We don't have a higher chamber and a lower chamber. We don't have a House of Lords. We don't have a Senate of any kind. We don't have states. We have a single territory, New Zealand.
Right. New Zealand. I just wanted people to know that, because you don't even have a constitution. You've got a white.
No, we don't have a written constitution at all. We kind of follow the British system, and we kind of market we market ourselves as a...
I'm just bringing these things up because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah,
so it's based on convention that a lot of the rules that you guys have have.
So what we have in New Zealand is a single House of Representatives, which is our government. There is no higher or lower power. That's it. There are 120 or 121 seats in that house, depending on how the numbers work out. Okay. There are a number of electorate seats around the country that are well and truly less than 120. So what happens is you go into the booth on election day and you make a decision. I want to vote for this candidate for my local representative, tick.
Yep.
But also, I think the party that should have the balance of power in Parliament is this party. So I've got a second tick. So what happens is...
That's strange.
All the votes for all the electorates get added up. And if I'm standing against you, Harry, in Nelson, New Zealand, then the votes for Harry and the votes for me get added up. And if you beat me in the race, you get to be the member of Parliament for Nelson, New Zealand.
Yep.
Even though you're a Tasmanian. I can't imagine it, but there you go. Well, I mean, the thing is, we did have a member of Parliament here in Nelson for the last 20-something years who was a rabid anti-cannabis man.
Yep.
And he's gone, actually, at this election. Funnily enough, he was... It's another story. So that's what happens. All the electorate seats get filled with the people that get the votes from that electorate. They get that seat. Then what they do is they add up all the vote across the country for the party. And they say, right, that's how many seats you get in your party because of that vote. That's how many this party gets. That how many, They divvy the rest of the seats out, basically. So then they go to a list of people on the party list that says, this is number 1 priority, this is number 2, 3,
Okay.
The people that are already voted in their electorate
That'll get a full quota.
They don't count. So then if you've got your first 20 electorate seats who are going to win their electorate seats anyway in, and then you've got your next 20 to 40 on your list. Let's say you've got 40 seats as per the National Party vote. Then you get 20 more people in Parliament in your party who sit and support you. However, those people have no electorate. They represent they represent everybody, but actually, in effect, their employer is nobody. They represent nobody. And if they want to cross the floor on any given issue because it gives them notoriety, for example,
that's a very European-based system, if you know, because even Greece didn't have this, and a couple of decades back, or they actually adopted something similar for minor parties by creating these additional seats where you could actually get as a percentage.
Yeah. So here's the problem with it, Harry.
It was 10% of the actual. So 90% was you had to win in a specific, but 10% was that. It doesn't exist in Australia, but it does exist in some European countries. So I suspect they adopted it from there.
Yeah. Okay. So in New Zealand, the current law is you need 5% of the vote nationally to get any seats on that list.
That's right.
True. Okay. Right. Fine. So let's say you make 5% of the vote. Let's say you have 5.0% of the vote. That gets you a percentage. Let's say that gets you 1 seat, 2 seats in Parliament. That represent nobody, but they are party votes. They are proportional representation votes. Let's say those 2 votes are the 2 swing votes that make whether or not you can fucking form a government or not. That's exactly what happened the last 3 years previous to the election we had several weeks ago.
Okay.
So the Labour Party in New Zealand, the centrist left-wing party, were a minority party. In actual fact, there was a majority in place. The centrist right party, the New Zealand Conservatives, the New Zealand Democrats, if you like, they could have formed a government if they had had the support of the several seats that were held by this party called New Zealand First, who were and have been a thorn in the New Zealand side for years.
That was that Maori party primarily.
Well, actually, they sprung from there, but actually, their leader was and is a Maori gentleman who actually is very anti-Maori ideas, very anti-Maori.
Okay.
Claiming the victim status. He's very much.
Gotcha.
He's one of these educated Maori who are offended by his low caste cousins, frankly.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
Goodness me, we can do better than this.
Yes.
And I agree with that sentiment. However, New Zealand First often the guy that we're talking about is called Winston Peters.
Yep.
And actually, New Zealand First is referred to almost universally in New Zealand as Winston First, the Winston First.
Okay.
What he did at the last election is what he should have done was go with the electorate and understand that the electorate wanted him to form a coalition government with the centrist right party to moderate them, to bring them more to the centre and to be sensible for everybody.
Gotcha.
Instead, what he did was he went to the centrist left party and said, tell you what, Jacinda, if you make me the deputy prime minister, because it's about Winston First, I can promise you, I'll go with you instead, and we'll fuck these right hand, right up their bum holes, basically.
Is he recently retired?
Well, here's the thing: he's in his probably late 60s now.
Is this basically a way of actually increasing his pension?
Well, I don't know, but for those that don't get it, Winston Peters,
I always think the money.
Yeah, sure. But for those that don't get it, Winston Peters is the New Zealand equivalent of Nigel Farage.
Yes. I think
including the wearing of pinstripe suits.
That's true.
Okay, this guy is modelled on Nigel Farage.
Exactly.
And he's a Maori boy who's gone like, I'm better than the rest of all of you Maoris. Which offends me more than anything you could imagine, frankly.
Yes, exactly.
That's offensive. Anyway, so what he did was he was expected to go with the National Party, the New Zealand Conservatives, the New Zealand right-wing party, because that's where most of the vote was, and he was supposed to be the kingmaker and to be the government. He went to Jacinda Ardern, who is the current Prime Minister, and said, you make me Deputy Prime Minister, me, Winston Peters, Maori boy from Bumfuck.
Gotcha.
And I'll go with you, and we can fuck these guys right up their asses. They won't expect it. No lube.
But legally, he could do that, and he did it.
Exactly, and he did it. So for the last 3 years, we've had a centre-left government where we've had Jacinda Ardern, who's been a sock puppet, who frankly has been under the control of Winston Peters in his pinstripe suit saying, Jacinda, remember how I made you the Prime Minister? Remember how you owe me everything? Remember how I was expected to go with the other side and I went with you because, and I'm the Deputy Prime Minister. Remember that, Jacinda? And she said, oh, yes, Winston, I do, yes, etc., etc. Anyway, we've just had an election here in New Zealand. And unfortunately, what's occurred is people have understood that finally, and the New Zealand First Party, otherwise known as the Winston First Party, has been eliminated from New Zealand politics. They are gone. They don't have a single seat in Parliament. They're gone. Winston's gone. He's done. He's finished. The whole thing is fucked in terms of that.
Is a pension on our money?
Well, the pension, whatever it is, he'll get that for being, because he's been a member of Parliament since. Yeah,
but at the same time, remember, he'll be getting a higher pension as a deputy prime minister.
But he's not anymore. He's gone.
But that's what he retired as.
Yeah. So he'll be getting. Yeah, you're quite right. He'll be getting
the payout's going to be higher. It's like, like if you've been a member of Parliament or a minister, you will get higher than a member of Parliament as far as the pension goes.
So Winston will be fine. So
that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe that was the reason he thought, well, he could basically get that sort of position which the other ones weren't offering.
Yeah. Okay. So, however, all of that said, the unfortunate thing that's happened is that the centrist right party that should have benefited from Winston's fall haven't, because they've had a bunch of infighting and they couldn't decide who was the best leader and such. Okay.
They literally shot themselves in the foot.
They made themselves completely unelectable. And so what happens is we've just had a general election, and instead of this whole left-wing New Zealand first, Winston first, nonsense. Okay, New Zealand first are gone, Winston's gone, fine. But because the New Zealand National Party, which is the right-wing Conservative Party, because they've made themselves unelectable, what happened was we had a 15% swing to the left, and hasn't Jacinda done a great job on COVID, keeping us all safe and shit? Yep. She now has a complete and absolute majority by her fucking self.
She's done pretty well.
She has, and I don't think she's 40 yet, Harry.
Shit, that's pretty. She must have some talents and some brains to get there.
I think she first came to notoriety in the New Zealand Labour Party because she was an attractive young lass. I really do. Let's be honest. I
don't know enough about it, so I can't.
And I think, well, she was a good-looking girl. She was at the time, and
she probably was. Yeah.
Yeah. And frankly, the burden of whatever that's been on her for the last bit is clearly told, shall we say. But anyway,
a stressful job will do that to you.
Yeah. Also, Harry, I forgot to mention. I did forget to mention. Very important.
Do that.
Jacinda Ardern, the current New Zealand Prime Minister, who's done very, very well of late, happens to be shacked up with a very high-ranking member of the left-wing media in New Zealand.
Really?
He's an actual, you know, he can actually decide who hears what. This guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's beside the point.
That is interesting. I mean, I know you. That's more something you get in like Europe, like Berlusconi, in Italy, and in some other places you get that sort of stuff. But I didn't think New Zealand you'd get something like that. But anyway, this question is directed to you from Dom.
Yep.
But the glasses.
These are from an Australian company called, oh God, some fucking thing. Anyway, I'm talking to him this week. He's going to be on the channel because I have had an attempt to speak to Jack Cruz on the channel. I've given Jack an opportunity to speak English to us. He failed. I've asked another guy that was a South African bloke to come and talk, and he said some stuff, but it was like, Anyway, the guy that runs the company that sells these will be on the channel this week.
Okay, there you go.
There you go, Dom. It's an Australian company. I've had these sent to me from Australia, and yeah.
So then you guys can go listen to it and basically ask questions.
You bet. Yeah, yeah. So hopefully this guy is up to it. He says he is. So we'll see. Because Jack. We love Jack, and I love Jack. Jack's a mate of mine, but Jack will not speak English, and he does it with malice aforethought.
Oh, look, yeah, I don't understand the thinking, because I know he wants to help people, and this is the confusing part. If you want to help people, you got to make it the message a bit easier for people to understand. It's not going to, work any other way. I mean, it's not difficult. I mean, as I say to my to people that listen to me, I go that when we did that with Hellman, the actual, and Jack didn't sort of turn up. I was expecting him. I was hoping, but he didn't. And then we sort of covered that, and I just showed those studies about heat shock proteins and all the sort of stuff and all that. And as I pointed out at the end, there's none of this sort of stuff, but the issue is, and it's with everything, all electromagnetic fields, whether it's your wiring in your home or whatever, there is a blue part of the spectrum that you're being bathed with. It's simple as that. In our modern world, the more we electrify the world, the more we put out there EMFs, all different types of electromagnetic fields, the more we bathe ourselves with that. We're bathing ourselves in the evenings with more and more blue light. Those frequencies that are coming from all these different sources. And that is why it's even more necessary to be on a high-fat diet, because a high-fat diet with upregulated glutathione and all that mitigates some of the damaging effects. And these are the sort of things, it's the reason why we wear these. And it's nearly going 8 o'clock, and I'm about to switch over to my other glasses now, my evening glasses. Hey, my pimp-like glasses. And it's all orange.
Yes. That's very, very good. So yeah, take off your blinkers, T1. So much for not going there. Yes, we didn't go there at all.
Oh, God.
T1, you knew we were going to go there, didn't you?
He did. He's a sick puppy. Let's see. What else is people seeing? Take their coffee outside. Oh, look. I get out of the house. I basically, after my previous live stream, I went out for a bit of a walk out in the sun, getting some vitamin D naturally, vitamin D and stuff like that. I'm off the supplements. I've got supplements there, so if I need high doses, if I get C19, to really, so it's a blip. It's not a major thing. It's not a thing that we should try and get it from the sun as much as possible. But sometimes this year I couldn't get to the tropics, not practical. So, but now the sun's out and it's quite we're getting good levels of UV down in Hobart, and I suspect in New Zealand as well.
Mr. Harry could not make his trip to Asia this year. Oh,
Not all exactly. Yes, I've been locked in Hobart. They've just opened up for New South Wales. I was down at Salamanca, and we just got this week some New South Wales people from Sydney, tourists that came in. So it's starting to happen, but yeah, it's a bit, oh God. And the problem is the message out there isn't getting, I mean, I was trying to get the message out there and also about vitamin D and all that, but these things are just not making traction because they've invested now money in the vaccine, and they've invested money in a whole lot of other drugs and stuff like that, and that's what they want to push currently, unless you're the president, and then you get the full assortment.
Who knows who the president is?
Yes, that's true. It could be an alien. Anyway, it's very you're all slaves.
If you don't stare at the sun and you cook your meat, then you are fucking slave. You have nothing to do with carnivore.
Thanks for that, mate.
No,
you should direct that question to Bart.
Nutrients. Are there any Greeks in New Zealand? No, we do not allow this. No. We only have purebred Aryans here.
I know there's only a couple of thousand in New Zealand. It's a very small community.
Oh, yes. We have very, very small country, funny man. That way is good because we come here and we find you. Don't make us come there. We find you, funny man.
Oops. Oops. Oh, thanks, StreamYard.
Yeah, StreamYard sucks ass, doesn't it, Harry?
Oh,
let's talk about how
it drives you up the wall.
Let's talk about how StreamYard sucks.
I mean, how many times does it take to basically send them the message? You know what? Recently, guess what has been happening with YouTube? They've been all the live streaming now. When you do it through StreamYard or any of the other applications, it doesn't come up.
Mm-hmm.
So for the last, none of the stuff has come up. They've changed the whole thing. And when you go directly to there, you go to your list of live streams, the ones that are waiting, pending, they've actually now got their own little, link via their live stream application.
Okay.
So they're basically deliberately trying to undermine StreamYard and all these other companies that are linking through to theirs by not posting them until the last minute when you broadcast.
Yes.
Really annoying.
Yes.
So the stuff you got to look forward to when you start doing live streams again. I haven't actually, I probably should experiment on a weekday and try using there and seeing what it's like as a test. One thing that I do like about StreamYard is I can bring these things up, the comments very easily. It's effortless.
For me, the one benefit of StreamYards is their capacity to highlight individual comments as you're doing right now at the bottom of the screen. Yes, you bet.
And it's also very easy to share things as well. It's add people in and stuff like that. It's not as complicated as some of the other applications. Yeah.
So StreamYards have that going for them. Absolutely, you bet. But for me, the problems are that they fail completely in every other respect that's meaningful to an actual creator.
Mm.
They will not support you. They will not back you. They will not take your corner. things like they will set every single fucking time you do a live stream. When you finish that live stream, they will send you a questionnaire saying, Harry, how good was your experience today? And you can say, my experience was as fucking shithouse as you like, because you cunts are fucking useless and you fucking failed in every respect. And they'll go, thanks for the feedback, Harry.
Exactly.
And we give 2 fucks not.
I don't think it's a human even responding.
Oh my God. And the next week you'll log in for your StreamYard's live stream and they'll give you the same fucking complete lack of service and they'll fuck you over the same way exactly.
Pretty much.
And, they give exactly 0 fucks about your opinion, about how your experience. Tell us about your experience, Harry. Why do you ask about Harry's experience when you have absolutely no fucking interest in Harry's experience and you don't give a fuck about Harry's experience? Why ask him?
It's just absolutely giving me
Why ask him, you cunts? That's my... yeah, I don't want to cause trouble here, Harry, but...
Actually, you know what? I actually put a few comments through. And, and like yourself, I noticed these sort of standard responses and I go, I'm actually talking to a machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't give a fuck about me.
Harry, just while we're here, because you got it on the screen, can you just tell T1 that actually, when I'm thinking about it, when that's actually my plan, when that's what I'm doing, I can actually play guitar a bit. So get fucked. That was I'm pissing about here because that's what I'm doing. But get fucked. When you can play guitar half as well as I can, son, you can comment on my guitar playing. Get fucked. Don't make me come there, T1. I will find you funny, man. I will find you funny, man.
Hey. And he will use the raw meat on you.
I will whip you about the face with the raw meat until you understand. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's nasty.
Ooh. Lady boy.
You
know some Lady Boy. Where is Lady Boy? Where, Lady Boy?
Oh, these characters are so funny.
Yes. I just have to say, Harry, though, make sure your people understand. Don't make us come there. We will find you, funny man. We will find you, funny man.
Oh, those two. Uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
Not a family-friendly channel anymore.
Fuck, when was it, Richard? When was it?
You're on the wrong channel. You're on the wrong live stream, mate.
Jesus Christ, son, where have you been? If you think Harry Serpanos was a family-friendly channel, you have been taken in, my friend.
They have, haven't they?
They have.
Half, a crazy Tasmanian devil, ranting, that's family-friendly in your eyes?
Well, I don't know.
It's worked, apparently. I'm family-friendly, mate.
Good. All right, Harry, do you swear more nowadays or less?
What's that?
Do you swear more nowadays than you did previously?
It varies. It normally happens when I get irritated about something that I've covered so many times and people ask me the same question about the same thing. Or the other thing is it's when, we've got the nonsense from the Poofer Brigade or the repeat brigade, or as I call it, that are basically just demonizing animal foods because, I mean, their version of actually eating is literally cutting every single bit of fat off the meat and then just having that or a protein shake like Christopher Walker and other things like that with a whole lot of sugar. That's their idea of good nutrition. So and the problem is, we've got this infiltration now into the community that, having some sugar, whether it's honey or whether it's rice or whether it's this or that, is a good thing. Really optimal, mate, apparently. I know you're exasperated as much as I am when I hear this sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
It just absolutely drives me mad.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel, Harry, but the thing with me is that there are really only about half a dozen questions, aren't there, that you get? They're the same fucking ones. And it actually doesn't matter what answer you give them, because you say, they say, blah, blah, bloody, blah, blah, blah. And you go, yeah, and here's the answer. And they go, And they go away and they harassing you. And then they go to the next poor sap who's got a remotely carnivore channel or a remotely anti-vegan channel, and they go, blah, 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 finish. And they say the same brain-dead, mindless fucking shit. Man. I'll give you an example. I was watching a video today because I watch the videos a lot looking for things to talk about and whatever else. And this was a video of fucking Darth Vader.
Oh, God.
And he was doing, oh, my God. And this was a video that was posted this week on Plant-Based News. Plant-Based News it was. So it must be good because it's on Plant-Based News. It was a 4-year-old video of fucking Darth Vader doing his thing. And it was the same puerile, putrid, nonsensical garbage that you hear day in and day out from these absolute fucktards.
Epidemiological garbage. What else?
Oh, it was Garth Davis saying you should eat fucking plants because blue zones. And I'm like, oh, you're fucking out of your mind. Are you fucking kidding me? Blue zones. The blue zones prove we should all eat plants.
I actually showed them last time on. I put up a link and I go, "This is what the Okinawans eat." And so some of the old ladies, you actually just have to put. They love spam. They eat shitloads of spam, processed meat. They've been doing it since the Second World War.
Sausages, bacon, eggs, sausages, bacon, eggs, spam, 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 eggs, sausages, bacon, and spam.
And that's the funny thing. And I'm going, the only time the Japanese actually saw some health problems about 20 odd years ago, macular degeneration, they thought they were immune, is when seed oils came in. And that was because of trade issues with the Americans that forced seed oils onto them.
Yeah.
The other, like Korea, their processed food is all basically palm oil from Southeast Asia. And they don't have these sort of issues.
Well, how about egg, sausages, bacon, spam, 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 egg, sausages, bacon, and spam? That's not got much spam in it. I don't want any spam.
Well, basically, these people can really. Klaus. Oh God, just looking at him, you feel like throwing up.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just what a twat. What an absolute twat. They are. It's just ridiculous.
To be honest with you, my one goal in life, Harry, is to have the opportunity to punch him in the face just once. Because Christ, I would punch him in the face. For being quite such the twat he is.
The only problem with that, mate, there'd be a line that you'd have to queue up.
Oh my God. Anyway, in the meantime, I shall be marching up and downstairs.
Well, we're looking forward to it anyway. You can imagine the trolls are out there, looking forward to it as well.
Unless, of course, any of you have got anything you'd rather be doing than marching up and downstairs.
What? Do you mean he gets preference over you? Always. Can I go to the movies? Have you got your mask? Have you got your certificate to leave your home?
I am your father.
Well, you've got to be careful with what, it's double talk with that character. There is no meaning.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy your bedtime.
No, Harry. Richard, you go to bed when we fucking say you go to bed. Who do you think you are deciding when you go to bed for yourself? What do you think this is? Winston's gone. There's no democracy here in New Zealand. I don't give a fuck if you live on the other island of the country, up there in Wellington. I shouldn't say up there because it's about level where I am in Nelson. It's about the same line of latitude. But anyway, you go to bed when we say so, son. And it's not yet.
What time is it there at the moment?
It is 2200 hours and 7.
2 hours ahead of us.
Yes.
What's wrong with you, Richard?
Exactly.
You soft cock.
That's right. We need to see some turgidity. Get it happening. Goodness.
Some stamina, some backbone, mate.
Somebody needs to represent the Wellington region. What are you doing? Goodness. Disappointed in you, Richard, I am. Oh, well, listen, Jafar, that's very fine from fucking Perth, but listen, in Perth, you are further away from Harry than I am in New Zealand. I kid you not. You go and get out a measuring thing and work it out. In Perth, you are further away from Harry than I am right now, and I'm in New Zealand.
That is true.
What are you doing, son?
And the other thing they don't realise, New Zealand was one of the initial signatories to the Australian Constitution. They can join whenever they like. Most people don't know that.
Yes, of course we don't tend to join most.
Well, we know that. We know that. I'm just pointing out that you do have that discretion if you ever want.
Yeah, we do. We tend to abstain from several things that we don't like about the way Australians do things. Frankly.
We won't go into that.
Well, underarm bowlers, it's one.
We said we won't go into that.
By the way, if anyone wonders whether we New Zealanders will ever get over the underarm incidents,
never.
No, get fucked. Trevor Chappell, you are the devil.
Hey, you got owned, accepted. It wasn't with the spirit of the rules, but it was still legal. And you guys got owned, outsmarted.
Tell you what, your wicketkeeper wasn't happy with it.
Who cares?
What was his name?
I can't remember.
at the time? It was
God,
Rodney. It
years
was
ago.
Rodney Marsh.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it was Rodney Marsh. But that was
Who was the facing batsman from New Zealand?
that I don't remember.
His name was Brian McKechnie.
Is he from around your area?
What was his other claim to fame?
Fuck if I know.
He was an All Black.
Oh, was he originally?
He was an All Black and a New Zealand cricketer.
Oh,
There
I
have
didn't know
been
that.
2 New Zealanders who have played for the All Black rugby team and for the New Zealand cricket team. Brian McKechnie was one of them. Who was the other one?
Tasmanians, Victorians don't follow, NRL or rugby or anything like that. We follow Australian rules football.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I don't know those sort of things.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, so the Australian wicketkeeper was Rodney Marsh. He was pissed. He was not happy with it because it was not cricket. The Australian captain of the day was Trevor Chappell. He instructed the bowler to bowl an underarm delivery to the facing batsman because New Zealand needed 6 runs to win.
That's it.
Off the last ball of a 50-over delivery game. And the idea was if you roll the ball along the pitch, there's no way you can hit it for 6, so they can't win. The facing batsman was...
Like 4.
Yep. 4 wouldn't have done it because they would have still lost.
Yeah, but you couldn't do anything.
No, so he was fucked. So the facing batsman was Brian McKechnie, who was also an All Black. And there's been one other player in the history of New Zealand sport who's been both an All Black and a New Zealand international cricketer. Let's see from the chat who knows who it was.
See, it's so painful for the Kiwis that he still remembers all the details of that traumatic incident.
We forget nothing, you motherfuckers. You motherfuckers, we remember the lot.
We've moved on.
You cunts can move on all you want. We fucking remember. And we will find you funny.
We innovated recently as well. It wasn't too long ago. We were basically modifying the cricket ball as well.
Yeah.
We're really innovators. The rest of you guys just are not picking up on this stuff.
Look how clever we have been, funny man. We have come here and founded you. Now, tell us what we need to know. Who is second player who also play All Black and also New Zealand cricket team? Yes. Good. Chai Lee has the answer. There it is underneath Dominic's comment at 10:12 p.m. Chai Lee, bring it up there if you like. That was the answer. That is the only other player who has played both for New Zealand cricket team and for the All Blacks, and it is Jeff Wilson. Very good.
That's why I ignored everything else. So
yeah. There you go. And also Jeff Wilson married a New Zealand netball team player called
are you insane?
I forget her name.
T2, are you insane?
Could I walk to Harry's place? Yes, if I swim good.
It's a little pond.
There is only small matter of Tasman Sea between us. Yes. Only 2,500 miles or so. No problem. I will find you, funny man. Yes. Also,
check this one. Now he's sucking up.
Oh, piss off. The Wahinis. Oh, get the fuck. Take your mates and fuck off and get to fuck. Those cunts have broken my heart more times than I can count. I don't want to hear anything about that fucking football team. Just forget about it. However, let's go back to a history of successful New Zealand sport people. The Swiss accent. Not sure about that, Dom.
God, I'll put some poison in the hole. Doesn't he have wings to fly?
Right. I'll be back. 2 minutes. Or less.
He's off. He's out of here. Get the questions in quick. T1 and T2, here's your opportunity to make quick remarks. Wally's away. Chickens. He's off for a drink, I suspect, or gone for a slash. Piss. See, Alex. Actually, I got this really nice. I did actually buy. A friend of mine actually mentioned it to me. This really nice sort of kombucha. It's got no carbs or anything like that, but really nice sort of probiotic. No other crap in it. So, it's really interesting. 0 sugar. Basically, it was, for a whole serving, it's 0.2. So, really nice as well. I tried to encourage them to throw in a few quick remarks, but, those two were chickens. Chickens.
Her Majesty Pirate Queen says I need to maintain my quietness for the next bit since it's after 10 o'clock here and stuff. But here's a question for the person who got that question correct as to who the All Blacks / New Zealand cricketer was other than Brian McKechnie. Here's a question. There was a cricket match played, a one-day international, that was played between New Zealand and Australia in 1990-something. It was the one and only game that Jeff Wilson played as a New Zealand cricketer. New Zealand won that match. It was played in Hamilton, New Zealand. I know because it was my hometown. I also know because I worked the scoreboard at the ground that day. I was the one putting the numbers up.
Seriously.
And the runs that were to win that game were struck by a New Zealand player. Who was it? And how many was it?
There you go. Another challenge.
Can you either talk to Harry in my office?
Hi, Pim.
No.
Harry says hi, Pim.
Hi, Harry.
She says hi, Harry.
Did you hear me?
I did hear you.
Can you please do that? Yes?
We haven't got any responses yet. Well, that's got him thinking.
Charlie's got it right again. It was Jeff Wilson. He struck a 4 to win the game.
No, that's actually the highlight before.
Okay. It was Jeff Wilson.
You gave it away.
Okay, it was Jeff Wilson. He struck a 4 to win the game for New Zealand that day. Anyone that was anything to do with that would understand how important this was, and they would know who the bowler was that he struck that 4 off. Anyone who can name that player will earn my eternal something. I don't know.
On the postage stamp as well. There you go. Scotty knows a bit.
T1, don't make us come there, funny man.
God, he's giving you a lot of stick tonight.
We will find you, funny man. I know where you live.
He's a troll on heat. Or something. Oh, that's right. A bicycle without a seat. Couldn't help it. Sorry. No, I'm not really.
Okay, it hasn't come as quickly as I had have hoped it would. I'll give you the answer. That day, New Zealand won the 50 over match. They won it with a strike of 4 runs from Jeff Wilson, who was also an All Black. The bowler, the Australian bowler from which was struck said 4 runs, was one Mervyn Hughes. Ring a bell? Anybody?
Definitely struggling with that one.
Oh well.
Take your time.
All right. My time has elapsed. I need to go and take care of things.
Post it in the comments.
Yes,
And we'll tomorrow take a look and
I will.
Whoops, wrong one.
Come on, Eric.
Hasn't come up in the StreamYard thing yet. Nothing to use.
All right. It's been a pleasure. I've been... Yes, he did. He played about 6. Yeah.
Oh, well.
All right, boys. Good to see you. It's been a pleasure. I've been pleased to share some time as usual. I need to go and take care of the usual things.
Likewise, mate. Good to see you. Take
Likewise.
care.
Yes, and we'll see you around the traps very soon. Young Harold, don't do anything.
Definitely. We need to do something together, get together and do something on shortly.
Yes.
Let Pim know that I will get back to her as well. It's just I had basically a leak that came through into my bedroom. One of the pipes actually busted, and I've been dealing with plumbers and shit like that.
Dirty boy.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, I've been on the floor lubricating myself. That's why busted a pipe. See you, mate. Good to see you here.
All right, mate.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye. Well, back to me, guys. Oh, we've been nice now, are we? Sort of. Not that pipe. That only flows when you play with it. God. Anyway, guys, tonight we're actually going into about for another probably about 17 more minutes. So 2.5 hours we're going to do this stream. So there you can throw any other question in that you may have. Or basically tell us something that the rest of us don't know. Anything controversial out there that you guys have heard that I haven't brought up or nobody else has brought up, and it's sort of on the back burner and none of us know about it or don't know enough about it. So it's always something interesting out there. And I always like to comment on certain things that are new or nuanced or maybe something that needs to be looked into a bit further. Back to the salt. Why do humans sweat out so much? Fuck if I know. Genetics. It can vary between people how much they sweat. It's those genetic pathways that determine angiotensin probably may have something to do with it. But then again, it may be completely another pathway. It's something we really haven't looked into. We know there's an excretion rate, which I can't remember off the top of my head right now, and it does vary. It's not a fixed excretion rate. It's a varied excretion rate depending on the temperature. There's some sort of formula somebody came up with. Is it a valid formula? No idea, because like a lot of the RDIs have never been really tested properly clinically. Some of these formulas, so would in a different racial group or a different group of people or different aged group of people or different health of their skin, would that vary the amount of excretion at a certain level of heat, at a certain latitude on the planet? So it's one of those ones where you can't actually provide a single answer for in that regard. But usually the best thing to do is just consume a bit more salt and let the kidneys determine how much they hold and how much they get rid of. That's the easiest way. We don't need to complicate things. That's what the kidneys are for, to manage part of that homeostasis. We just need to make sure that we're getting a bit more than we're losing in order to maintain that homeostasis, so we don't lose the other minerals and then that homeostasis drops to a further level down and then we are slightly deficient in that regard. So that's the important things. Where can I get those glasses, Harry? They're sexy, aren't they, mate? That's the area. Remember the blue blocking light bulbs company? It. And we shift it over here, up here, and enable share the screen. And it's that company there, Block Blue Light. Whoops, I'll be signing in right now, and they've got the light bulbs as well. And hold on. And no. Oh, right up there, top. So that's for the evenings. So basically, you've got these different varieties. That's a bit similar to like the one that Bart was using. Something similar to that. And it does look similar. Maybe this is the company that he's looking at. Anyway, so this is the company that I bought. That's the pair of glasses right there that I bought. So they used to be $100, but I did buy them at this sort of price level in that regard, and they cover all the blue. There's a bit of green there, just a bit of green, and this is the sort of this part of the evening. And at the later part, you basically switch to the night ones, and it's all the red stuff, which is these ones here. And the daytime ones, let me just bring up the daytime ones. They're the clear ones. And these are the ones you use on a computer. So the computer glasses, they block about 50%, or they vary. These are better quality ones, so they actually bring it to the actual level. They block sufficient level of blue light that you would get from a screen. Some of the others are basically a bit higher in this sort of area. This is around the 50% mark, and it's where you want to be to block sufficient. So you're still getting some natural levels of blue light, but you're not getting these really high levels of blue light that you would get looking at a computer screen. So these are really good for computer screens. And that's what my other ones that are here. This is a more cheaper brand than that there, but it does the same thing in that regard. I'm considering buying another pair from this company because they're really good. The quality's fairly good, so I'm actually thinking about that, but I just haven't got around doing it. I've been dealing with a whole lot of other things and stuff like that, and it wasn't as high a priority. I'll throw that in there for blinkers, and that's the site. And I've posted in many other cases as well in that regard. So yes, MeTech stuff coming out of okay. I've heard somebody did mention it to me about MeTechs. I know that there is in like Denmark and places like that. There is also that sort of similar stuff, and it's starting to be pushed within the EU as well, which is a concern. In Australia, it's not really an issue, and New Zealand, it's not an issue. Well, currently it's not, but there is that push to basically promote or make meat more expensive. And I've noticed that all the commercials recently about plant-based alternatives and plant-based stuff, they are pushing the line that it's more convenient, that it's tasty, which is shit really, all that sort of stuff. And the commercials are not basically, they're not like vegan in your face, pushing that sort of, I'll just bring that down a bit, vegan in your face in that regard. So it's a sort of a light version of, you're sort of helping the planet. You're doing this sort of stuff. It's all that sort of nuanced bullshit that's actually being pushed out there, unfortunately. But that is what is happening, and it is a big concern. I know that some of the meat producing both companies and producers like farmers in the UK have starting to mobilise on this, and I think it's going to be very hard for them to get it through Parliament as successful. But at the same time, I don't know how far it's progressed, because the last time I looked at it was a couple of months back when it was brought to my attention. So I've been out of the loop now for, 3 months or maybe a bit more. So I don't really know where it's at right now to be able to comment quite clearly. But I know that at the time there was a bit of a campaign sort of being mobilised. And there is some campaigns in Europe as well. Pretty much Eastern Europe have told most of the people that have come up with those suggestions to go and take a hike, which is the correct thing to do. It's unlikely to happen in Southern Europe because, people are not that, not into that sort of vegan nonsense and stuff like that. And there is less processed there's less of an industry, a processed food industry in Southern Europe to be able to push that sort of nonsense. And I mean, Italy, antipasto, Greece with a lot of actually meat dishes and stuff like that it's really hard to push it in those sort of countries that have got traditions in terms of eating. You know, people still don't consume as much processed stuff. So it's really countries like the UK, Australia, New Zealand, the US, Canada, and certain other countries in Europe that are more down the road of the processed food industry, where it's much easier to push this sort of bullshit. That's the thing, and that's the worry, you know. So, because when you're already got a large part of your population eating kibble, it's not that difficult to basically push this sort of stuff. But when a large part of the population is actually eating real food, it's much harder to do that. And that's where, you know, as I've always said, our fight is not really with the vegans. They just misdirect. They are sort of a propagandist for these sort of industries and stuff like that. But the reality is it's these industries that are a real threat, and they're very powerful in certain countries. I mean, countries like, you know, one of the big food multinationals comes out of the Netherlands, you know, and so they, Unilever, I think they're called, and they have a lot of clout. And there's a lot of other companies like that that are basically are pushing some of this sort of stuff. Why? Because they can make more money out of kibble. Simple as that. So they want to take out their competition, which makes real food. That's what's really happening. So it's for us to go out there and try to promote, say, oh, you know, about meat, is probably the wrong angle. The angle is to unify with people, both omnivores, low carb people, paleo people, and other people like that, to try and push back against processed food, because ultimately that is what is going to make it much more difficult for this sort of bullshit to happen. So they can you know, it's only in those sort of conditions where they can really make some traction. I hope that's, you know, made a bit of sense. But it means that people need to organise, and a lot of farmers and people in our community, paleo, low carb, all that, we need to basically pick up our act on these sort of issues in terms of campaigning. How long will I have to deal with COVID nonsense? Yeah, anyone's guess. Really anyone's guess. I mean, if we look at the science and we look at respiratory infections, vitamin D plays a big role. We can basically deal with this sort of stuff. You know, if we basically treat everybody the same and actually give them, you know, the sort of vitamin D levels like they did for President Trump, they provide with those sort of things. And I don't think some of the other stuff really played as much a role as they play up. I think it was the vitamin D that played a big role. It was the ionophores and stuff like that. That's really what stopped it in its track, because basically vitamin D plays a very important role with the mucosal, the respiratory system. It can actually close those junctions much tighter, so pathogens can't get in as easy. So the other stuff may have had some little effect. It may have allowed for quicker recovery, but ultimately I think the vitamin D, the high doses of vitamin D that was given, and the zinc supplementation with the ionophores probably played the big thing. But the problem is, even though we've got really good clinical studies showing that, it's not happening. You know, I mean, Ivar's talked about it in recent times quite a bit and campaigned on it. I mean, I spoke to you guys about it in the early days, way back, how important vitamin D was. And I still believe that vitamin D is the most important element in combating all respiratory infections. I've basically for years now have never had the flu. Even though I've had a bit of a sniffle, it's gone through the office, the flu, and I've never caught it. Simply because my vitamin D status was before my cardiovascular issue, before I changed my understanding of things and was just like everyone else. I used to get the flu or really bad colds every single bloody year. I now have one of the lowest sick leaves. I mean, I'm like a star employee that never, rarely ever gets sick. So, but the thing is, when when people ask you, the dramatic change since 10 years ago, I mean, you tell them vitamin D and they look at you funny and they go, why don't they get it? And the media are promoting drugs and stuff like that for the big pharma. So, they're more concerned about this than rather getting any good stuff out anyway. So, yeah, it's a concern. Yeah, it's hard to get out. And because air travel is not basically normalised, oh, is that your problem? You can't get to Bangkok. Oh, sorry, mate. I feel for you. Are you offering yourself up? You're a sick puppy. You're a sick puppy. He does have adrenal fatigue. Is adrenal fatigue real? Not really. Now, can you tax your adrenal system? Yep, you can, with too much stress and low sodium. You want to actually lower cortisol. You want to lower epinephrine, norepinephrine. You want to normalize your. You add a bit more sodium into your diet, and they come down. There's plenty of studies out there that show that basically that things normalize. It's the low salt. We're overtaxing our, we're chronically stressed. People can't eating foods that are actually stressing them even more, creating high insulin and all sorts of things. It's all these other factors. They call it adrenal fatigue, but really in the sense, you're really taxing your system in a number of ways. If you basically, and the other nice thing about salt, it does lower cortisol. It also, for people that are eating some carbohydrate, it also lowers uric acid, especially people that are consuming a bit of honey and things like that, which could cause them some problems for some of them. But generally speaking, just to be less facetious, the reality is I've never seen real good science to basically say that there is a disease called adrenal fatigue. But what I do know is that there is definitely fibromyalgia. There is definitely, thyroid issues, a lot of stress issues. It's a myriad of things that can manifest to overtaxing a number of organs in your body. So, when you really look closely at the science, at the research, it's really not there. I can't find it. Something which is like slam dunk that I can say there was adrenal fatigue slam dunk. Nope. I can tell you about, because, things that tax your kidneys. There's a lot of things that tax your kidneys, your adrenals. There's a lot of things that tax. It's not one thing only. And there are a number of things you can do to reduce that, which is manage stress, more sodium, a more ketotic diet that basically will lower a more, animal-based diet. You don't want to go into very high. If you really lower your sodium and lower your carbohydrates, you'll definitely basically be pushing up those stress hormones, so, but usually even then antidiuretic hormones kick in and all that, and things can normalize. It depends on your genetics as well, but it's not as, black and white as some people make it out. But, I always say to people, if you've got really concrete evidence, because I usually find that people, when they fix their sodium, they fix their diet, they fix most of these things, all these things go away. Their thyroid issues, all these things go away nearly magically. It's just basically a lot of this symptomatology that actually people suffer really comes down fundamentally to very poor diets that most people have, or have chronically caused a lot of issues to a number of their organ systems. potentially cause themselves some level of mitochondrial dysfunction. To a large extent, people that I find with fibromyalgia or with things like what they consider chronic fatigue and stuff like that, and adrenal fatigue and these sort of things that people call, it's usually a mitochondrial issue. And once they stopped the inappropriate things and they fix their mitochondria by flushing out some of their deuterium with deuterium depleted water, which you can do a bit faster, and they start eating appropriately more fat to basically change and improve the mitochondrial function, do certain things like NAD sort of precursors like niacin, things start fixing and correcting themselves. So yeah, as I say to people, show me a slam dunk study that actually proves it. Doesn't exist. Not. I did. No, I didn't. I got the knot right after. I got his not. Not my question. I could have used that. That would have been a useful thing. Move on. Say nothing. That's where not to get them. I've lost the plot. Always, mate. Always. That's it. Stylish, mate. Stylish. It needs to be blue blocked. Actually, we need the red glasses for him. Dom, he needs like the red glasses, to block out the green part of the spectrum. I'm moving to Oz then. Oh, God. Don't go to Western Australia. Dangerous place. It's a dangerous place where trolls exist. These dangerous creatures. Yeah, exactly. Crap, My hypothesis is basically that this reversal of the polar, the North and South Pole that actually happens, it's going to take about 800 to 1,000 years. It could happen earlier. We don't know how these reversals happen, but we know that the magnetosphere of the Earth has been slowly getting weaker. When the magnetosphere becomes weaker, what happens is you get more solar radiation. And there are plenty of greenhouse gases like water vapor, clouds, that can absorb that extra radiation. So, shit happens. We can't do much about it. The reversal will eventually happen, and we will have to basically, our compasses will have to be modified. That means turn north to south and whatever, things like that. But that's the way it's going to go. Unfortunately, people just, they like this nice little reductionist, it's nonsense. I mean, we've had all this garbage before, Malthusian sort of thinking in the past. Oh, we're going to run out of this and going to run out of that. We're going to all die and starve. And, we've had this on and on. And we always have a way of getting around or sorting it or whatever. Even though these are natural things that are happening, we will find ways to mitigate. We've always have. we're quite smart to get this far. We're not a dumb species. And, if we are, well, bad luck to us. That it's just the way it is. But basically destroying our lifestyle, making us more impoverished when the science is so poor, when the stations that they read these things, a lot of them have changed elevations. The topography around them has changed in a number of different ways, which I've spoken before. And so historically unreliable in a number of ways. 1 point. Second, they're not taking into consideration all these other effects. The way the different elevations in terms of the actual cloud, the actual different parts of the actual gases within our globe, different elevations and all that, the way there are a number of different hypotheses how they mix or move or whatever. The Connollys have got one idea, and there's a lot of that sort of stuff, and really we haven't really definitively proven any of this. So, Bart's confident that the Connollys are pretty much closer to their understanding of that. I have no idea. And so in my sort of opinion is, there's another element that we have completely ignored, and that is the magnetosphere, weakening of the magnetosphere. And that's a hypothesis. I can't prove it, but it's a hypothesis of mine. Nobody else is looking at it. There's a couple of physicists that are focused on in terms of the actual thing itself, but they're not making the connection between that and the climate. So nobody's actually connecting the dots between the two. This research is sort of independent from climate research, and they're not actually pulling the dots and saying, okay, is this allowing more radiation to come in? And is that, because we've got a lot of more water vapor and stuff like that, which we're not even counting or measuring properly, and they are potent greenhouse gases. Are they absorbing more? Has anybody measured that? No. So there's just so many bloody questions, upending a whole society on very incomplete science in some regards. I don't see as a logical thing, and I'm surprised that the current political class have basically jumped on that bandwagon. It's a bit concerning. I don't think more statesman type politicians of the past would have done that on both sides of the aisle. They would have basically said, well, we need more proof on that, and we need to do a bit more research than rather than accept it with that sort of poor level. The old traditional ways, how good is the science? Nowadays, God, just look at nutrition. It's a joke. 90% of it's just junk, epidemiological, observational nonsense, which can't even infer anything, let alone causation. So that's the sort of world we're living in. Yep, food industry wants to sell us kibble, and the rest want to basically, restrict or whatever. Yeah, crazy bloody world we live in, unfortunately. Definitely. I'm not sure what blinkers is put up there. What are you putting up there, blinkers? It better not be pornographic, because you'll be spanked.
It's time to gear up for summer at Anaconda. 30% off all summer clothes.
Roy Orbison. That's okay.
My Harmon cape and body glove.
Oops. Share with audio.
Every time I look into your loving eyes,
I'm not going to sing you.
I
Thanks, blinkers. I'll watch it later. Anyway, you're welcome, mate. Oops. Went right past all that. What about all the talk about carnivore, keto, crashing your testosterone and thyroid? According to those people, you should cycle carbs. Well, usually what I say to those people is, while there are Inuit that have got a SNP that are more closer to the Arctic, that basically are very, they don't really go into a ketotic state. The ones that are further down in terms of latitude do, and they consume animal products for pretty much most of the year. So if there was an issue, those things should have tanked with them. Fundamentally, when it comes to testosterone, the thyroid, and all this sort of stuff, when it comes, it's nutrition. If you're not getting enough zinc, iodine, you're not getting enough copper, selenium, these things aren't going to work. If you're not basically, that's why you've heard me why I disagree with a steak-only diet. I don't argue with other people on that point, but it's one of the reasons why I do, because I look at ancestrally and people ate a very mixed type diet and getting a lot of different sources from different things they ate along rivers and along coastlines. They both consumed both terrestrial animals and local coastal type or river type fish, plus a whole lot of other things, eggs, wild eggs, from whether ostrich eggs or whatever. So it's really important to understand that the population has basically had a very diverse in that regard. This sort of nonsense that you would have had access to sugar is ridiculous. But if you don't get enough protein in your body, in particular men, women require more fat than men, but in particular men, because you need tyrosine as well to support your thyroid. You need the B vitamins. So if you're a carnivore and you're drinking a whole lot of alcohol, you're going to be burning through a lot of B vitamins, aren't you? You need choline because there is a methylation compartment to that as well. So, you need taurine as well. And when you start looking at all these different elements that you need, why do you think that the highest amount of people with thyroid disease and low testosterone are people on high carbohydrate diets? Just look at them. It's the general community out there. They're on the SAD diet. The majority of them, most thyroid diseases are in the general community. Most testosterone, that's why they're on testosterone hormone replacement therapy. It's out there. It's only when people do silly things like, these, ultra low protein, high fat type, wacky therapeutic types that they get into trouble, and their electrolytes are out and all sorts of things when they do these sort of strange, bizarre type eating patterns. That's when I notice that people get out of whack. When people are sensible and basically say, well, I'm going to have a bit of chicken, I'll have a bit of beef, I'll have a bit of some eggs, some dairy, some cheese and stuff like that. Those people, I just hit that. Those people don't get themselves out of whack, And there are a lot of other people that come to the carnivore diet and go steak only because they've got underlying gut issues, and people say to them, oh, you've got an underlying gut issue, you've got to go right down back to steak and cut everything out. But what happens is steak is not sufficient in a number of micronutrients as well, and they may need more. It's a bit like Terry Walls, who did the protocol with a lot of organ meats to reverse her MS. Now, if she did steak only, she wouldn't have done that. But by having a lot of organ meats, she was able to put back what her deficient diets of the past did to her. So some people can go straight to a steak only. Some people can't because they've got severe deficiencies and severe problems. And that is where they should be actually, going to BART or PIM or people like that and doing consultancies and actually asking them, what should I do? And they will tell them, you need to do these panel of tests and stuff like that. I don't have the time to do that, to help these people. That's why I'm trying to slowly put these videos out to give them the information to help themselves, is what I'm trying to do a bit over the next course. And that's where my focus is. But the reality is people are not looking and assessing. They are unaware of certain genetics. So there is a methylation issue that affects the thyroid as well. Well, if you've got some of those SNPs that affect basically choline synthesis or the conversion of choline to folate and stuff like that, if you've got some of those SNPs, well, you're going to have problems, because you're going to have problems methylating sufficiently, let's say, a lot of xenoestrogens and stuff like that may be affecting you. You may not be getting enough things like, you may need a bit more boron to normalize those things. A lot of people are unaware of this information. And so they haphazardly, they go to these so-called carnivore superstars or keto superstars, and pretty much they get a half-assed, just go and eat steak and, you'll sort yourself out. For a large proportion of people, that's probably okay. But for a minority of people that are really being damaged, it's not. And they will struggle and suffer as a consequence. So unfortunately, they don't turn up here because I'm hardly known on the interwebs. And some of us more controversial people like Bart are also being, let's say, throttled in terms of their visibility. And so it's really hard. And so you hear these stories because, I get around and, I remember Carnival Yogi, she was basically sort of struggling. I actually sent her an email, and actually, I don't know what she did with it, or she never replied back to me. And I'd actually said to her, she had said, I've got an MTHFR. And I actually linked up my video and said, you probably have a riboflavin requirement, which is much higher than the average carnivore, to correct that problem. So you can up the extra riboflavin will increase the expression of those enzymatic pathways in that other methylation pathway. Whether she did that or not, I don't think so, because basically she just brushed me off. You try and help people, but if people don't want to be helped, it's the way it is. That's the way it goes. And I did it privately because I didn't want to basically make it public. But since she brushed me off and all that, and I have no loyalty to her, and she has no loyalty to me, I can say it in that regard. And I've got proof because I've still got the email. So, but I respect people's privacy until they get nasty in that regard. I've always done. I've still, even though I've cut off from Frankie and all that, I still respect. But that is why he's kept his mouth shut. Yes, exactly. But I would never reveal anything unless somebody turned on me and I had justification then. Because it's just not my style. Simple as that. But anyway, going back to this, I would say basically that it's a whole lot of nonsense. And most people that have got thyroid problems and testosterone problems are usually people that are eating absolute shit. That's basically it. And people in the carnivore community or keto community that may have issues with, in particular, testosterone, some of them have basically got still some level of fat phobia. I actually ask people, and I go, show me what you're eating. And they've got these lean cuts of meat, and I'll go, Why aren't you putting more fat? Oh, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to basically. Well, when you lose rapid weight and you don't provide enough support to your endocrine system with fat, you know what happens? You need also fat for all the fat soluble vitamins. You know what happens? Basically, your hormones are going to tank. So, I mean, that's what one thing about Stephanie Keto person has actually said. You need more fat, you guys. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you scared of fat? And she's right on that issue. Why the fuck are you scared of fat? You need fat. You know, if you take out one energy system, you need fat. But fat you need for your hormones and everything else. This is why people on kibble have all these hormonal problems. It's not surprising. It's the fat that's missing. You know, I mean, fat is a key, and cholesterol a key to hormones. It's nothing magical. So yeah, but the problem is when you do ask people, they never tell you exactly everything. You sort of literally have to rip it, drag it out of them. You know, you go, well, you're doing that, aren't you? Oh, sort of. You know, I mean, for fuck's sake, just be honest with me. I can help you then. Point out your, you know, yes. Anyway, any way of him to improve constipation on a 70% fat, 30% protein diet without supplementing magnesium. There is a really good bacterial supplement that I have used in the past. I used it for different reasons, but it's helped there as well. But I used it for because it does also help for things like dysentery and other tropical waterborne diseases. And since I do venture in that part of the world, I did want that. So, you know, it did have a positive effect also on my poo. And that was even before I became carnivore. So, yes, that was way, way back. Yes, I will be doing, as I said, I'll send you, just send me an email and I'll send you a quick link to it. And don't let me, look, I like to share things and try to help people at the same time, but I'm trying to get content out as well. And, you know, yes, it may be selfish of me, but if I'm going to build my channel, I need to basically have stuff that is going to attract people. It's simple as that. If I give away a lot of people, what happens is I've noticed I've done a couple of things where and then other websites, I've done like searches and it's appeared. I won't mention names. And I go, you know, which is annoying. And they actually got even more viewership than me on the same points, which is fucking annoying. Anyway, so yes. But there is a type. So send me a link and I'll send you a link to the company that produces it. And that will help you. And the other one that I actually showed today is fairly good as well in helping in that regard. Plus, it increases your sperm count. Yes. Anyway, we know what T1 and T2 will be doing. I'll be spraying the back part of the actual toilet, making an absolute fucking mess of stickiness. Won't you, boys? God almighty. God help us. I can believe that. The satanic troll from the west. Oh, the wicked witch. Oops. What's Balbo got up here? Oh. When Harry was young. Thanks, mate. Better share this. Oops. Nice one, mate. Nice one. God, we're up to 3 hours. So I will be pulling the plug on this one. Not a good idea. Do you now? Oh, that's strange. Yeah, look, it's not affecting your sleep. Who am I to tell you otherwise? But generally speaking, it's not an advisable thing. And the reason for it is that when you it's all has to do with the circadian rhythms. It's better to eat at times of light because that's when you will have the most best type of enzymatic systems all activated to work properly. At night, you want to have that additional energy going towards shifting towards other parts of repair, including your brain, repairing the brain. So that's why I don't advise late night snacking and eating, because it long term, not short term, but long term, it will have some deleterious effects. Like everything, it's accumulative. It takes a while for certain things. So I'd find something like, milk, raw milk in the evening, early evening. Having something like that will make you more sleepy, probably get you to bed a bit earlier. So that's another option, to consider. But that's me. Yes. God, what? You guys got weird ideas. Very weird ideas. How much water or other traditionally they just drank when they were thirsty. They never basically drank a standard amount. And they did get a lot of hydration from blood. They got hydration also from low deuterium water sources, plus from fat, they hydrated as well. And if you look at tribal people that go out to hunt and all that, they're not chugging down water continuously. People that go around out for a walk and they literally every 5 minutes are actually drinking. That's not normal. But when you're on a high carbohydrate diet, you end up more dehydrated. Remember, metabolic water, 1.1 from fat. You produce 10% more water, metabolic water, clean water. When you're on a carbohydrate diet, you only produce 40.44%. So you need to get 56% of hydration from somewhere. Otherwise, you'll be dehydrated. That's why sugar dehydrates. Yes. That is why these people had less problems. And that is why when somebody actually tells me that basically they are pissing all night or they are pissing constantly or stuff like that, it immediately tells me, oh, you're insulin resistant. You got issues and you're pushing up, and your body is actually internally pushing up the production of sugar far more, and probably burning away muscle as well if you're not giving it enough. So, the quickest way to correct insulin resistance is usually a 72-hour fast. That really brings down the blood sugar and insulin. It makes you very insulin sensitive. So I don't believe in chronic long-term fasts, but sometimes to correct things, you need to basically, pull your finger out and do something like that. So, yes, it's a bit more nuanced, but you know me. How much water or other fluids are consumed by traditional per day varies depending on the season, depending on how thirsty they are. Very much varies. As I said, drink to thirst, eat to hunger. Thanks, mate. Oh, look, I actually love liver pate. Yeah, I actually do. I combine it with cheese. Like I will cut thin slices of like Gouda and then use it as like you would use it with crackers or whatever, and get in there and get the liver pate. Oh, really nice. Or cut thin amounts of liver pate and just lay it on the actual cheese. Yes, very nice. Yes, I do things like that. But what I haven't done recently is probably, I haven't basically, a lot of like mussels and oysters and stuff like that. I've really neglected that part very recently. It's probably because of, with the C19 and all that and all these sort of issues, it's one thing that I haven't really done. I did say I'm going to do a video of the waterfront of Hobart, and I will do something like that. And I'll have to go to some of these places and start doing a bit of seafood for you guys to see, what's down here, what we do and stuff like that. So some people may find it interesting. But yes, something that I've sort of neglected. G'day, how's it going, Doctor? Good to see you, mate. Yes. I hope you've had your kibble today. Seeing there's trouble. G'day, Kate. Good to see you. You're late. We've had Bart on here. We've had a bit of fun and frivolities, especially with T1 and T2. Thanks, mate. I'm enjoying myself far too much. I started yesterday, but I decided to take magnesium with every meal and see how my poo turns out. Okay, interesting. Let us know. I may have to do a little quick video like I did today and just show you that. That's what I'll do, actually. Once I get off this, I'll do a quick video and show you the actual thing. It's a live bacteria, and it has to be refrigerated. So it's sent the moment you get it, you put it in the fridge immediately. So it's a refrigeration job in that regard. And it does actually help reduce constipation and stuff like that. So it's really good. Yeah, I know. It's back to back. You're welcome, mate. Oh, look, some people also, constipation, some people, because of the reduced amount of lactobacillus, they may experience like constipation from dairy products, even though they're not lactose intolerant. But they may, that's another thing that I forgot to mention, that, some people do, if they've got low lactobacillus, and especially if people have had a lot of bouts of like things like antibiotics and stuff like that, and potentially the gut microbiome sort of, the ratios of certain bugs in there have sort of changed a bit, and it's making it difficult for lactobacillus to proliferate. You may need to take some supplementation of lactobacillus for some time to basically literally give them a fighting chance, so to speak. So that may be another thing to think about as well. Previous grade. All share in Dutch Carnival group. Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Maybe it'll wake up a few of them and stop concerning them about these things. I should rant more often then, Dominic. I'll keep you basically, very much alert. G'day, Cynthia. You're back again. Session 2. Good to see you. And lentils. It's good. That's traditional kibble. Ah, there you go. Is C19 an explosive? It's a respiratory explosive. Yes. What about them? Beyond the antigens of your, I'm an O positive. Beyond the antigens, it's pretty much important. It has nothing to do with, because actually, let me put it this way, the A blood type, which they say is agricultural, nope, it's actually one of the more ancient ones. So it's BS. Don't fall for that nonsense. That's okay. Doesn't. I sort of have to go through and check all my comments, and I'll do that tomorrow because I don't. It's getting later here. It's about 9:30, so I've got a couple of things that I have to sort out, and then I will basically, don't encourage him, Kate, and then basically I will get back to replying if I've missed anyone. I usually always reply to the first people that put comments out there, and then I go back the next day and look at everybody else's comments. So I know, who was it? Jared came on and actually asked me something similar that he posted, but I didn't actually get back to him at the time because I'd gone for a walk, and then I came back, and then I noticed, and I go, and I sort of replied, and then I did that quick video before the other one, before this stream. So yes, that was a really just a love me job type thing, quick and dirty, just to, I knew where I had, in which folder I had the actual studies. And so I quickly, because I'd actually showed one of them before, I think both of them, but in live streams. I just needed to make one specific one to basically make the point clear on the thing that I tried to push across. Anyway, I've been through a lot of antibiotics. Yeah, look, tell me about it. I have as well. Why do you think I went down the pathway of looking at all the different probiotic strains and then working out what I really needed to biohack? It's the way of getting. I mean, now some of my friends are doing some of the stuff of these. I do want to do, because a lot of people out there, I know there's some people that talk about probiotics, but nobody realizes there are actually specific strains that do specific things. And it's more important that we get those sort of things to basically modulate our immune system, modulate a whole lot of functions within our bodies. And that's the majority. I know Michael, from one of the other channels, he actually talked about one of the bacterial strains, and he's switched on now. He's picked up on it, high intensity health or whatever. And he actually recently did, not too long ago, one on a specific strain. It was brought to my attention by somebody else. I hadn't seen it, about, carbohydrate metabolism. Not that people on a carnivore diet really need to give a shit about that, but he was, promoting it for his own keto people and all that. And that was interesting. And that there's not many out there that have realized the importance. I've been doing, when it comes to specific bacterial strains. I've been doing it now for some time, biohacking with specific strains. But I need to do something along that line as well. It's something that I was going to leave for next year. I may do a few things. I may bring them forward a bit in December in that regard. So, it may happen in that regard, because it's really important, that sort of stuff, because it allows people to sort of, if just the diet isn't really working for them, then they can sort of biohack their way with some of these things to better health. There is a connection between the gut and the brain. And so, these things are important. And a lot of us have really done poor diets in the past, and we're suffering because of that to a large extent. Anyway, I did a lot of trial and error with a lot of things. Let's say I've got all sorts of reactions. I even got some bloody yeast type things that I used as well to test things out of how to basically stop diarrhea really at its track with certain yeast products. It actually did work. So I've played around with a lot of shit in that regard. Don't get the wrong idea, T1. Yeah, we know, Harry. That's what would be his direct comment, I suspect. Yes. Sure, I want to do what Michaela Peterson did and eat encapsulated human shit that was destined for enemas. Okay. Probably that's a bit on the radical side, but I don't know. Some of this stuff does help. That's true. There are issues with that sort of stuff. There are issues with other people's shit. There are issues with viruses. There are issues with, this is why I've got an issue with it. There are issues with certain types of strains that may be in there that could potentially cause weight loss, increase weight gain. A lot of people have mixed things, and I think that area is fraught with a bit of danger. Let's put it that way. So I'm not convinced that is the best way to go, especially if you've got other options in that regard. Anyway. Yeah, still on. Yeah, Alex, I know. Yeah. I should pull I'm just going to quickly. Nah, steak and eggs is a lot of the way a lot of the old bodybuilders did, so. And if you want to get some carbs, you can get it from dairy products. Much lower in deuterium as well. So the sugar in dairy is lower in deuterium. So it's better for your mitochondria anyway. So that I would take that pathway in terms of putting dairy-based carbohydrate rather than plant-based carbohydrate because of the deuterium factor. But yes, if you really want to build really big muscles and all that, it does help a bit. That's true. So depends on how big you want to become and what else you want to do with that. There's some old training as well that actually can build up your chest and sort of, magnify the chest, some old bodybuilder techniques. It's something that I want to eventually do some of the stuff, but my focus at the moment is on the health stuff. I will do next year some stuff relating to some of the old techniques, some of the old bodybuilders used, but that's further down the track of the golden era, back in the golden era, so to speak. Anyway, I will move on. Okay. Yeah, I don't know enough about that one. Try to get meat rehab, just brainwashing to. Anyway, Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we did chat about this via email, me and Alex. Good memory. Must be getting bloody late. My brain isn't actually working on all cylinders at the moment. But yeah, that also did help, because sometimes these gut issues could be related to gallstone issues or gall sludge and stuff like that. Yes, the video on gallstones and stuff like that is coming out this week, so that will cover that issue as well. Is it real Greek yogurt through? No idea. I feel a rant coming on. I don't know enough about it, so I can't rant. I can't say anything. We'll come, don't worry. Yes. See you, Kate. Definitely. You're welcome, and thank you for being here. That's true as well. The body does actually adjust, but at the same time, if you had a poor microbiome for many years, like youth and all that, and some people do, some people were not naturally, they basically, it wasn't basically a vaginal birth. So there's a whole lot of reasons, a lot of antibiotics in very early age. Some people, there's a lot of things where they may have lost certain strains. The other thing is your swallowed wrongly, your appendix, fucking hell, your cecum, your appendix. Yeah, that could be have been removed as well, which is a repository of your initial microbiome. The lack of acidity, stomach acidity, or enough bile may have allowed overgrowth of other things like candida and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of things that, it will vary between people in that regard. Yeah. Okay, you may get somebody else's of strains who is thin, and you may have a bit of a reversal. You never know. But again, there's a lot of risks in terms of health and other factors and all that by putting some other stuff in. What else are you getting from that person? That's where my concern is. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It could be a sort of a pancreatitis or issue like that. So there's a lot of issues that can have similar symptoms. Yes, it is. It definitely is. And I'm going to really just flow through all this. And basically, and if you do go and check that site, also there's the UK site and there's the New Zealand site as well. They've got links further down. You'll find them and you can go through them. And it's on one of my live streams as well in that regard. You're welcome, mate. Exactly. Nothing like vitamin C from the sun. And I am freaking out of here. Anyway, guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. We've done the run and got through most of the questions. Yeah, I know. It's Harry time, mate. It's Harry time. You should know that. You know. Thanks, Alex. And thanks to everyone else. Enjoy the remainder of your weekend because you guys are still much earlier today compared to me. Thanks, mate. And I am out of here. Thank you. Oh, my loving bird. Thanks, mate. Thank you, Cynthia. And thank you. And yes, not forgetting Roy as well. Anyway, I'm out of here. See you guys. Bye.